Hello there, and welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Adjust your pillow, let your body settle into whatever position feels right. There's no rush. We have all the time in the world. Where in the world are you right now? A quiet bedroom as the night deepens? A cozy corner where the weight of the day is finally lifting? Wherever you are, you're exactly where you need to be. Tonight we're going to explore something that has captivated human imagination for centuries. The idea of money that works while you rest, income that flows whether you're awake or asleep, wealth that builds itself through systems rather than through the hours of your life. We'll discover what passive income really means, trace its evolution from ancient civilizations to the digital age, and gently contemplate how ordinary people have created streams of money that continue flowing long after the initial work is done. We'll meet landlords and inventors, dividend investors and content creators, and slowly, carefully, piece together how financial freedom actually works. But don't worry. This isn't going to be a frantic guide to getting rich quick or a sensational exploration of wealth secrets. Instead, we'll move slowly and carefully through the centuries, through the mechanisms, through the quiet mathematics of money multiplying. We'll take our time with the concepts, the stories, the gentle logic of how wealth compounds. By the end, I think you'll find that passive income isn't mysterious or magical, but rather the patient application of understandable principles, and that knowledge itself can be deeply calming. If you enjoy these calm explorations of financial concepts, a like and subscribe really helps reach others seeking the same peaceful way to end their day. And to those already subscribed, thank you for being part of this community of thoughtful listeners. So settle in. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Take a slow breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And let's begin our slow drift through the history and mechanics of passive income, through ancient rent collectors and modern dividend portfolios toward understanding. There's nowhere you need to be, no deadlines to meet. Just listen and let the story unfold like a long, quiet conversation between old friends. Let it wash over you. If you drift away, that's perfectly fine. That's what we're here for. Let's begin at the very beginning, with the oldest form of passive income humans ever created. The concept of earning money without active labour is almost as old as civilization itself. Long before stock markets or dividend checks, before patents or royalties, before any of the complex financial instruments we'll explore tonight, there was land. And whoever controlled land controlled something remarkable: the ability to profit from other people's work. Consider ancient Mesopotamia, 5,000 years ago, in the fertile valleys between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The land there was extraordinarily productive, capable of growing grain that could feed far more people than just the farmer tending it. And here, in these ancient settlements, a pattern emerged that would repeat across human history. Some people owned land, and other people worked it. The landowners, often priests, nobles, or successful merchants, would lease portions of their holdings to tenant farmers. The arrangement was simple. The farmer would work the land, plant and tend and harvest the crops, do all the actual labour, and in exchange for the right to farm that land, the farmer would give the landowner a portion of the harvest. Perhaps 1/3 of the grain, perhaps 1/2. The exact proportion varied, but the principle remained constant. Think about what this meant for the landowner. Once the agreement was made, once the farmer was installed and working, the landowner could simply wait. The seasons would turn. The farmer would plant in spring, tend through summer, harvest in fall, and when harvest came, a portion would be delivered to the landowner's granary. The landowner hadn't planted the seeds, hadn't pulled the weeds, hadn't swung the scythe. But the grain arrived nonetheless, year after year, as long as the arrangement continued. This was passive income in its purest, oldest form. Money, or rather grain, which in those societies was money, flowing to someone not because of their labour, but because of their ownership, because they possessed something others needed and were willing to work to access. The pattern spread across the ancient world. In Egypt, the pharaoh owned vast estates worked by peasants who owed portions of their harvest. In ancient Rome, wealthy patricians owned agricultural estates called latifundia, sometimes spanning thousands of acres, worked by slaves or tenant farmers. The owners might never visit these distant properties, might know nothing of farming, yet the wealth flowed to them nevertheless. By the Middle Ages in Europe, this system had evolved into feudalism, an entire social structure built on the foundation of passive income from land. Lords owned manors, peasants worked the land and owed the lord not just a portion of crops, but also labour, a certain number of days per year working the lord's personal fields, maintaining his property, serving his household. The lord in exchange provided protection and justice, but the essential relationship was unchanged from ancient Mesopotamia. The lord owned, the peasant worked, and wealth flowed upward. There was something almost magical about it from the lord's perspective. You were born into a family that owned land. You inherited that land, and for the rest of your life, as long as you maintained basic order and didn't drive your peasants to rebellion, food and goods would flow to you. You could spend your time hunting or studying or making war or doing nothing at all. The land would provide, the peasants would work, the wealth would accumulate. Of course, this wasn't passive in the sense of requiring no attention whatsoever. Land needed management. Disputes arose that needed settling. Harvests varied and required adjustment. Rebellious peasants sometimes needed suppressing. But compared to the backbreaking labour of actually farming, the landowner's role was remarkably light. They had created, or more often inherited, a system that generated wealth with minimal ongoing effort from themselves. The philosophical implications of this were profound and troubling. Here was wealth that seemed to violate the basic human principle that you should earn what you receive through your own labour. The landowner contributed little or nothing to the actual production of food, yet claimed the largest share. Was this just? Was it moral? Religious thinkers struggled with this question. Some concluded that the social order was divinely ordained, that the Lord's elevated position was God's will, and therefore his claim to passive income was legitimate. Others, particularly later reformers, saw in this arrangement a fundamental injustice, the exploitation of those who worked by those who owned. But whether just or unjust, the system persisted because it was self-reinforcing. Wealth from land could be used to buy more land, to strengthen one's position, to ensure that your children would also be landowners. Poverty from landlessness meant you remained landless, unable to accumulate enough to break free. The passive income available to landowners created a gulf between classes that was very difficult to cross. This pattern wasn't limited to agriculture. By the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance, wealthy merchants in Italian city-states discovered other forms of passive income. If you owned a building in a prosperous city, Venice, Florence, Genoa, you could rent space to shopkeepers or craftsmen or other merchants. They would pay you monthly rent and you would do very little. Maintain the building, certainly, collect the rent, but the actual work of running shops, of creating goods, of serving customers, that was their labour, not yours. Or consider the practice of lending money at interest. The Catholic Church officially condemned usury, the charging of interest on loans, as sinful, but the practical need for capital, for money to fund voyages or businesses or land purchases, was too great. And so lending happened anyway, often disguised or justified through complex legal arrangements. A wealthy person could lend money to a merchant, who would use it to fund a trading voyage to the east. If the voyage succeeded, the merchant would return the loan plus a share of profits, not interest technically, but a partnership return. The lender had risked capital but done no work, yet received wealth from the merchant's successful labour. These various forms, land rents, building rents, returns on invested capital, all shared the essential characteristic of passive income, wealth flowing to owners rather than to workers. to those who controlled resources rather than to those who laboured with their hands and backs, and they all created the same fundamental dynamic: the ability to live, to thrive, to accumulate more wealth without selling the hours of your life for wages. By the 17th and 18th centuries, as European economies grew more complex and more commercial, passive income opportunities multiplied. Government bonds allowed you to lend money to kings and parliaments, receiving regular interest payments. Joint stock companies, the predecessors of modern corporations, issued shares that entitled you to a portion of profits. Inventors could license their patents, receiving payments every time someone used their invention. The Industrial Revolution accelerated this transformation. Factories required enormous capital to build and equip. Individuals couldn't afford such investments alone, so they pooled their money, forming corporations. If you owned shares in a textile mill, you received dividends based on the mill's profits. You didn't work in the mill, didn't manage it, might never visit it, but quarterly or annually, a dividend payment would arrive, your share of the wealth created by workers you'd never meet, operating machines you'd never see, producing cloth you'd never touch. This was passive income reaching a new scale and abstraction. A landowner at least saw the land, knew the tenants, understood at some basic level what was being produced. But a shareholder in a distant corporation, the connection between ownership and production had become almost invisible, mediated through paper certificates and accounting ledgers and dividend checks. And yet the principle remained unchanged from those ancient Mesopotamian landowners 5,000 years earlier. Own something valuable, something others need or want to use, and wealth will flow to you from their labour and effort. The forms had evolved from grain to gold to paper certificates to electronic account balances, but the essence was constant. Passive income was and remains about ownership generating wealth with minimal ongoing labour from the owner. As we drift forward now through the centuries, through the evolution of financial markets and investment vehicles, keep this long history in mind. Passive income isn't new. It isn't a modern financial innovation or a recent discovery. It's one of the oldest wealth-building strategies humans have ever developed, refined over millennia, adapted to changing economies and technologies, but fundamentally unchanged in its core logic. Ownership, whether of land or capital or intellectual property or financial assets, can be converted into ongoing streams of income that flow while you sleep, while you work at other pursuits. While you do anything at all except actively labour to create that specific income. Let that settle for a moment. The deep history, the ancient roots, and when you're ready, we'll explore how these principles were transformed by the rise of modern financial markets, how passive income became accessible not just to nobles and wealthy merchants, but potentially to anyone with money to invest and the patience to let it grow. The transformation of passive income from the privilege of landowners and aristocrats to something accessible to ordinary people didn't happen suddenly. It was a gradual evolution, spanning centuries, accelerating dramatically in the 19th and 20th centuries as financial markets matured and democratized. Let's trace this transformation carefully, understanding how the mechanisms of wealth building became available to those who weren't born into land or title. In the early 1800s, if you were a person of modest means, a shopkeeper, a skilled craftsman, a clerk, your options for generating passive income were severely limited. You couldn't afford to buy land. You didn't have the capital to invest in businesses or factories. Government bonds existed, but they typically required substantial minimum investments beyond your reach. Your wealth, such as it was, likely consisted of your tools, perhaps your shop, maybe some savings kept at home, or deposited with a local banker. The magic of money earning money while you slept remained largely out of reach, but changes were underway that would gradually shift this landscape. The growth of banking institutions meant that even modest savers could deposit money and earn interest. The rate was usually small, perhaps 3 or 4% annually, but it was something. Your money sat in the bank. The bank lent it to borrowers at higher rates, and you received a portion of that difference as interest on your deposit. This was passive income in miniature, accessible to anyone who could save even small amounts. Consider what this meant in practical terms. A clerk earning $50 a month might manage to save $5. Deposited in a bank at 4% annual interest, that $5 would earn 20 cents per year. Not much, certainly not enough to live on. But it was 20 cents the clerk hadn't laboured for directly. It was money earning money. And if the clerk continued saving, adding $5 each month, the accumulated savings would grow not just from deposits, but from compounding interest. Interest earning interest, creating a virtuous cycle of growth. The mathematics of compound interest had been understood for centuries, but this was perhaps the first time in history when ordinary working people could actually benefit from it. Benjamin Franklin captured this in his famous quote about money, quote _2 compounding was the engine that could transform small savings into significant wealth over decades. It required patience, discipline, consistency, but it worked according to mathematical laws as reliable as gravity. By the mid-1800s, stock exchanges had become more organized and accessible. The New York Stock Exchange, founded in 1792, had grown from a handful of securities traded under a buttonwood tree to a formal institution with hundreds of listed companies. The London Stock Exchange was even older and larger. These exchanges created marketplaces where shares in corporations could be bought and sold. Initially, stock ownership remained concentrated among the wealthy. Shares were expensive. The mechanics of buying and selling required connections and knowledge that ordinary people didn't possess. But gradually this began to change. Some companies issued shares with lower face values, making them affordable to middle-class investors. Brokerage firms opened offices in smaller cities. Newspapers began publishing stock tables so people could track prices without visiting the exchange. The appeal of stocks as a source of passive income rested on dividends. When you owned a share of a corporation, you owned a tiny fraction of that entire enterprise. If the company was profitable, the board of directors would typically declare dividends, payments to shareholders from the company's earnings. These dividends were usually paid quarterly, a check arriving 4 times a year, representing your share of corporate profits. Imagine owning 10 shares of a railroad company in 1870. The company operates trains carrying freight and passengers across hundreds of miles of track. Thousands of workers maintain the rails, operate the trains, sell tickets, manage stations. The company earns revenue from all this activity, and you, owning 10 shares, receive perhaps $5 per share annually in dividends, $50 total. You did no railroad work, laid no track, sold no tickets, but because you owned a piece of the company, a portion of all that economic activity flowed to you as passive income. The genius of the corporate structure was that it allowed enormous enterprises to be divided into thousands or millions of tiny, tradable pieces. No individual could build a transcontinental railroad, but thousands of shareholders, each contributing their capital, collectively could. And each shareholder, large or small, participated proportionally in the profits through dividends. This wasn't without risk, of course. Companies failed. Dividends were reduced or eliminated when profits fell. Stock prices fluctuated, sometimes dramatically. The panic of 1893 saw banks collapse and stock prices plummet. Investors lost fortunes. The lesson was clear. Passive income from stocks wasn't guaranteed income. It required accepting risk, required diversification, required patience to ride out downturns. But for those who weathered the volatility, who held quality companies through panics and recessions, the results could be remarkable. A worker who saved consistently, who invested in solid dividend-paying companies, who reinvested those dividends to buy more shares, could accumulate wealth that would have been impossible through wages alone. the passive income from dividends could supplement wages during working years, then potentially replace wages entirely in retirement. The early 1900s saw further democratization of investment. Mutual funds began to emerge, pooled investment vehicles where many small investors contributed money that professional managers then invested in diversified portfolios. This solved several problems for small investors. It provided instant diversification, spreading risk across many companies rather than concentrating it in just a few. It provided professional management, leveraging expertise that individual investors lacked. And it lowered the barrier to entry, allowing people with just a few $100s to participate in markets that might otherwise require thousands. Real estate, that ancient source of passive income, also became more accessible through new financing mechanisms. Mortgages had existed for centuries, but they had typically been short-term loans requiring large down payments and balloon payments. In the 1930s, following the Great Depression, the United States government created new programs that offered long-term, fixed-rate mortgages with lower down payments. This meant that ordinary families could buy homes and small investors could buy rental properties with less capital than previously required. The logic of rental property as passive income was straightforward. You purchased a building, perhaps a duplex or small apartment building. You borrowed most of the purchase price through a mortgage. You rented the units to tenants. The rent they paid covered your mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and ideally left some surplus as cash flow. Over time, your tenants essentially paid off your mortgage through their rent, while you gained equity in the property. Eventually, when the mortgage was paid off, the rent became nearly pure passive income, limited only by ongoing expenses. This was leveraged passive income, using borrowed money to control an asset that generated returns exceeding the cost of borrowing. If you bought a $10,000 property with a $1,000 down payment and a $9,000 mortgage, you controlled the full $10,000 asset while investing only $1,000 of your own money. If the property generated $1,000 per year in net income after all expenses, including mortgage payments, that was a 100% return on your actual cash invested, not just 10% return on the property value. Leverage amplified returns, though it also amplified risk if property values fell or rental income dried up. The post-World War II era saw an explosion in passive income opportunities for ordinary Americans. The GI Bill provided education benefits that helped millions gain skills for higher-paying jobs, creating surplus income to save and invest. The growth of pension plans meant that employers contributed to retirement accounts on workers' behalf, investing that money in stocks and bonds to generate returns. Social Security provided a guaranteed baseline of retirement income, creating security that made investment risk more acceptable. The stock market participation rate climbed steadily. In 1950, perhaps 5 to 10% of American households owned stocks directly. By 2000, it was roughly 50%, either through direct ownership or through retirement accounts and mutual funds. Passive income from investments had become a middle-class aspiration, and for many, a reality. But stocks and real estate weren't the only forms of passive income that democratized in the 20th century. Intellectual property rights became valuable assets for creators. A songwriter who wrote a popular tune received royalties every time it was performed on radio, recorded by other artists, used in films or television. These royalties could continue for decades, providing income long after the initial creative work was complete. Authors received royalties from book sales. A novelist might spend a year writing a book, but if the book became popular, royalties could flow for the rest of the author's life and beyond, as copyright extended 70 years past death in many jurisdictions. Each book sold generated a small payment to the author, and a successful book might sell steadily for years or decades. This was passive income from intellectual labour. The initial creative effort was active and intensive, but the income it generated extended far beyond the time spent creating. Photographers discovered similar opportunities. A photograph taken in an afternoon could be licensed hundreds or thousands of times to publishers, advertisers, websites, each use generating a licensing fee. Stock photography agencies emerged as intermediaries, managing these licenses and collecting fees on behalf of photographers. The photographer's effort was front-loaded, taking the photos, editing them, uploading them to agencies, but once in the system, images could generate income for years with no additional work. The late 20th and early 21st centuries brought entirely new forms of passive income enabled by digital technology. Software developers could create applications or tools, sell them online, and generate recurring revenue with minimal ongoing effort. An app that took 6 months to develop might sell for $5 to millions of customers over several years, generating far more income than the development time alone could justify through hourly wages. Content creators on platforms like YouTube discovered that videos could generate advertising revenue long after they were uploaded. A video created in an afternoon might be watched millions of times over years, each view generating tiny fractions of a cent in ad revenue, collectively adding up to substantial income. Popular channels with extensive libraries of content generated significant passive income from videos created months or years earlier. Affiliate marketing created another stream. Website owners or content creators could promote products or services, earning commissions on sales generated through their unique referral links. The initial work was creating the content that attracted audience and included the affiliate links, but once published, that content could continue generating commissions indefinitely as new visitors discovered it and made purchases. Online courses represented yet another form. An expert in some subject, photography, accounting, web design, fitness, could create a comprehensive course once, upload it to platforms like Udemy or Teachable, and sell access repeatedly. The course might take 100 hours to create, but it could be sold to thousands of students, generating income that far exceeded what those 100 hours would earn at any hourly rate. All of these digital passive income streams shared certain characteristics. They required significant upfront effort, creating content, building software, developing courses. They required some ongoing maintenance, updating content, responding to customer issues, adapting to platform changes. But the ratio of income to active labour was dramatically different from traditional employment. You could earn while you slept, while you travelled, while you worked on other projects, because the systems you'd created continued operating and generating value. The democratization of passive income reached perhaps its fullest expression with the rise of low-cost index funds in the late 20th century. John Bogle founded Vanguard and created the first index mutual fund in 1976. The concept was elegantly simple. Instead of trying to pick winning stocks, just buy a small piece of everything. An index fund tracking the S&P 500 would own shares in all 500 companies in that index, weighted by their market value. This provided maximum diversification with minimal fees. For passive income seekers, index funds were revolutionary. You could invest small amounts regularly through automatic payroll deductions. The fund would diversify across hundreds of companies. Costs were minimal, often less than 0.2% annually, compared to 1 to 2% for actively managed funds. And the returns, over long periods, typically matched or exceeded those of actively managed funds, because the low fees meant more of the market's gains flowed to investors rather than being consumed by management costs. A worker earning $40,000 per year could contribute 10% to a retirement account invested in low-cost index funds. That's $4,000 per year, or about $333 per month. Invested consistently over 30 years with average stock market returns of roughly 7% after inflation, that worker would accumulate over $400,000. The dividends from that portfolio, even at a modest 2% yield, would generate $8,000 per year in passive income. Not enough to replace a $40,000 salary, but a significant supplement. And if the worker increased contributions as income rose, or invested for longer periods, the passive income potential grew proportionally. This was passive income available to anyone with the discipline to save consistently and the patience to let compound growth work over decades. No special knowledge required, no exceptional talent, no inheritance or lucky breaks. Just regular investing in broadly diversified, low-cost funds, repeated month after month, year after year, letting the mathematics of compound growth work its patient magic. The accessibility of passive income had come full circle from those ancient Mesopotamian landowners. What had once been the exclusive privilege of the wealthy and well-born had become available, at least in principle, to anyone who could save and invest. The mechanisms had evolved from land to stocks to intellectual property to digital content. The mathematics had been refined through centuries of financial innovation. But the core concept remained unchanged. Create or acquire assets that generate income without requiring your constant active labour, and you create financial freedom, the ability to live on something other than the direct sale of your time and effort. Of course, access to passive income remained unequal. Those with more capital could generate more passive income. Those with higher incomes could save more and invest more. Inequality in active income translated directly into inequality in passive income potential. The systems that democratized access to passive income didn't eliminate these disparities. In some ways, they amplified them, as those with resources could take better advantage of opportunities. But the transformation was real nonetheless. The tools, knowledge, and opportunities for generating passive income had spread far beyond the aristocratic landowning class that once monopolized them. A middle-class family in the early 21st century had access to passive income mechanisms that would have seemed impossibly sophisticated to the wealthiest merchants of the 18th century. They could own pieces of thousands of companies simultaneously through index funds. They could generate royalties from creative works. They could rent property or create digital products. The palette of possibilities had expanded dramatically. As we continue our exploration, as we look more carefully at specific passive income strategies and their mechanics, keep this democratization in mind. What we're discussing isn't just available to the wealthy or the specially talented. The principles work at any scale. $1,000 invested generates passive income through the same mechanisms as $1 million. Just proportionally less. The key is understanding the principles, having the discipline to apply them consistently, and maintaining the patience to let them work over time. Let those thoughts settle gently as we move forward into the specifics of how different passive income streams actually function in practice. Let's move now from the broad sweep of history into the specifics of how dividend investing actually works. Because this is perhaps the most accessible and time-tested form of passive income available to ordinary investors. We'll explore it slowly, carefully, understanding not just the mechanics but the quiet mathematics that make it powerful. Imagine you're holding a single share of stock in a well-established company. Let's say it's a utility company that provides electricity to millions of homes. The company has been operating for decades. It owns power plants, transmission lines, distribution networks. Every month, millions of customers pay their electric bills. That revenue flows into the company. After paying all the operating expenses, fuel for the plants, salaries for workers, maintenance on equipment, taxes to governments, what remains is profit. The company's board of directors meets quarterly to decide what to do with these profits. They could reinvest everything back into the business, building new power plants or upgrading infrastructure, and they do reinvest some portion, but they also declare a dividend, a payment to shareholders, perhaps 90 cents per share this quarter. If you own 1 share, you receive 90 cents. If you own 100 shares, you receive $90. If you own 1,000 shares, you receive $900. This 90 cents appears in your brokerage account without you doing anything. You didn't generate electricity, didn't maintain power lines, didn't collect bills from customers. You simply owned a piece of the company, and the company's profitable operations generated cash that was distributed proportionally to all owners. This is dividend income in its purest form, passive ownership generating active cash flow. Now consider what happens if this company is stable and profitable, as many utility companies are. Quarter after quarter, year after year, the dividend checks arrive. 90 cents per share this quarter, perhaps 92 cents next quarter. 95 cents the quarter after. The dividend grows slowly but steadily as the company's profits grow. Over a decade, the quarterly dividend might increase from 90 cents to $1.20. Your income from each share has grown by more than 30% without you doing anything except continuing to own the share. If you own 100 shares, your quarterly dividend has grown from $90 to $120. That's an extra $120 per year, or almost $500 annually. Not transformative money perhaps, but real income that requires zero ongoing labor from you. And if you've been reinvesting those dividends, using them to buy additional shares, the growth compounds even faster. Let's walk through the mathematics of dividend reinvestment slowly, because this is where passive income begins to multiply itself in ways that can feel almost magical. You start with 100 shares of that utility company. Each share pays 90 cents quarterly, so you receive $90 every 3 months, $360 per year. The stock price is, let's say, $30 per share. Instead of spending that $90, you reinvest it by buying more shares. At $30 per share, $90 buys 3 additional shares, so after the first quarter, you own 103 shares. Next quarter, those 103 shares each paid 90 cents, giving you $92.70. You reinvest again, buying another 3 shares plus a small fraction. Now you own 106 shares. This pattern continues, quarter after quarter. Each dividend payment is slightly larger than the last because you own slightly more shares. Each reinvestment buys slightly more shares. The growth accelerates gradually. After 1 year, you might own 112 shares instead of 100. After 5 years, 160 shares. After 10 years, 220 shares. After 20 years, 400 shares. Your quarterly dividend, which started at $90, is now $360 because you own 400 shares. That's $1,440 per year in dividend income from an initial investment of $3,000. And remember, this assumes the dividend per share stayed constant at 90 cents, which it probably wouldn't. If the dividend grew by even 3% annually, which is common for stable companies, the numbers become even more remarkable. Let's add that 3% annual dividend growth to our calculation. After 20 years of 3% annual growth, the quarterly dividend per share has increased from 90 cents to $1.62. Your 400 shares are now each paying $1.62 per quarter, giving you $648 quarterly, or $2,592 annually. Your passive income has grown from $360 to over $2,500 through the combination of reinvestment and dividend growth. This is the quiet power of dividend investing. The initial amount seems small, the growth seems slow, but over years and decades, the mathematics of compounding, dividends buying more shares, which generate more dividends, which buy even more shares, while the dividend per share itself grows, creates wealth that far exceeds what any reasonable hourly wage could generate from the same initial capital. The beauty of this approach is its passivity. Once you've bought the initial shares and set up automatic dividend reinvestment, the system runs itself. You check it occasionally to ensure the company remains healthy, that dividends are still being paid reliably. But there's no daily management, no active trading, no complex decisions. The company operates its business. Profits flow to shareholders. Dividends are declared, paid, and automatically reinvested. The share count grows, the income grows, and you do nothing except wait and let the system work. Of course, not all companies pay dividends, and not all dividend-paying companies are created equal. Understanding which types of companies make good dividend investments requires some knowledge. But the principles are straightforward. Mature, profitable companies in stable industries tend to pay reliable dividends. Utilities, consumer staples companies that make food and household products, established telecommunications firms, real estate investment trusts. These are sectors known for consistent dividend payments. Younger, faster-growing companies typically don't pay dividends. Technology companies in their growth phase reinvest all profits back into expansion. They're trying to build market share, develop new products, scale their operations. Dividends would require distributing cash that they'd rather use for growth. These companies can be excellent investments if their stock prices appreciate, but they don't provide current passive income the way dividend-paying companies do. Real estate investment trusts, commonly called REITs, deserve special attention in discussions of dividend investing because they're required by law to distribute at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders as dividends. A REIT might own apartment buildings, shopping centres, office buildings, industrial warehouses, or specialised properties like cell towers or data centres. The REIT collects rent from tenants, pays operating expenses, and distributes most of what remains to shareholders as dividends. This structure makes REITs particularly attractive for passive income seekers. The dividend yields, the annual dividend divided by the share price, are typically higher than regular stock dividends, often in the range of 3 to 6% annually, compared to 1 to 3% for typical dividend stocks. A REIT trading at $50 per share with a 5% yield pays $2.50 in annual dividends. Own 100 shares and you receive $250 per year in passive income from the rents, paid by tenants in properties you've never seen, managed by professionals you've never met. The mechanics, beautifully passive. Tenants pay monthly rent to the REIT. The REIT's property managers collect the rent, maintain the properties, find new tenants when units turn over. The REIT's corporate team manages finances, refinances debt when advantageous, buys new properties, or sells underperforming ones. And quarterly, you receive your proportional share of the net rental income as a dividend. You've become, in essence, a landlord without any of the traditional headaches of property management. Of course, REITs aren't without risks. Property values fluctuate. Rental income can decline during economic downturns when vacancy rates rise. Interest rate changes affect REIT values because many REITs carry significant debt, and because higher interest rates make REIT dividends less attractive compared to bonds. But for investors willing to accept these risks and hold through market cycles, REITs provide a valuable source of passive income that's ultimately backed by tangible, income-generating real estate. Building a diversified dividend portfolio requires patience and regular investing. A common approach is to identify 20 to 30 high-quality dividend-paying companies across different sectors, then systematically accumulate shares over time. Perhaps you invest $500 monthly. One month you buy shares of a utility company. Next month, a consumer staples company that makes toothpaste and soap. The following month, a REIT that owns shopping centres. Gradually, methodically, you build a collection of dividend-paying positions. Each position is small initially, but as dividends are paid and reinvested, as you continue adding new money each month, the portfolio grows. After 5 years, you might have accumulated $20,000 in dividend-paying stocks. At an average yield of 3%, that's $600 per year in passive income. After 10 years, $45,000, generating $1,350 annually. After 20 years, $120,000, producing $3,600 per year. After 30 years, perhaps $250,000, generating $7,500 annually. These projections assume consistent monthly investing of $500 with modest 7% average annual returns, which is below the historical long-term stock market average. they're conservative estimates. The actual results could be better with higher returns or worse with lower returns. Markets fluctuate. Some investments fail. But the long-term trend for patient investors in diversified portfolios of quality companies has historically been upward. The passive income generated might never fully replace a working salary for most people. $7,500 per year is meaningful, but not sufficient to live on for most individuals. However, it's a significant supplement. It could cover all grocery expenses, or utilities and insurance, or provide for vacations and discretionary spending. And for retirees with paid-off homes and lower expenses, dividend income combined with social security and perhaps a pension could be enough to live comfortably. More importantly, dividend income provides security and options. If you lose your job, dividend income continues flowing, providing some financial cushion during the job search. If you want to reduce your work hours, take a lower paying but more fulfilling job, or pursue creative projects that don't pay well, dividend income gives you the freedom to make those choices. It's not just about the amount of money, though that certainly matters. It's about the autonomy that passive income creates, the reduction in dependence on any single employer or income source. The tax treatment of dividends adds another layer of consideration. In the United States, qualified dividends, those paid by most US corporations and held for a minimum period, are taxed at lower rates than ordinary income. For middle-income investors, qualified dividends might be taxed at 15%, compared to 22 or 24% for regular income. This makes dividend income more tax-efficient than wages. Though tax laws change and vary by country, the general principle often holds that investment income receives preferential treatment compared to earned income. Dividends held in tax-advantaged retirement accounts like IRAs or 401s aren't taxed until withdrawal, allowing them to compound faster. A dividend reinvestment plan inside an IRA means the full dividend buys new shares, none of it lost to taxes. Over decades, this tax-deferred compounding significantly increases the final accumulation. The same principles apply in other countries with their own versions of tax-advantaged retirement accounts. There's something deeply satisfying about dividend investing that goes beyond the mathematics. It connects you to the real economy in a tangible way. When you own shares in a company that makes products you use daily, the soap you wash with, the electricity powering your home, the phone service you rely on, the dividends you receive represent a share of all that productive economic activity. You're not gambling on price movements or speculating on future hype. You're participating in genuine wealth creation, in companies producing real goods and services that people value enough to pay for. The quarterly rhythm of dividend payments creates a satisfying regularity. Every 3 months, usually on roughly the same dates, the dividends arrive. It's predictable, reliable in a way that much of modern life isn't. Companies occasionally cut dividends during hard times, yes. But the best dividend payers take pride in maintaining and growing their distributions through economic cycles. Some companies have increased their dividends every year for decades. The so-called dividend aristocrats that have raised dividends for 25 consecutive years or more. These dividend aristocrats represent the pinnacle of dividend investing, companies so well established, so consistently profitable, so committed to shareholders that they've managed to grow dividends year after year regardless of recessions, market crashes, or business challenges. Companies like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, 3 household names that have rewarded shareholders with growing income streams for generations. Investing in such companies feels less like speculation and more like partnership with enduring enterprises. You're not trying to outsmart other investors or predict market movements. You're simply buying ownership in solid businesses and allowing their profitability to flow to you as passive income. There's a patience to this approach, a long-term perspective that aligns well with sleep-optimized thinking. You're not checking prices daily or worrying about short-term fluctuations. You're building an income stream that will support you years and decades into the future. The emotional aspect of dividend investing is worth acknowledging because it affects sustainability. Passive income strategies only work if you actually maintain them over long periods, and you're more likely to maintain an approach that feels emotionally comfortable. Dividend investing, with its focus on current income rather than price appreciation, with its quarterly payments providing regular positive feedback, tends to be emotionally sustainable for many investors. Watching your quarterly dividends grow from $50 to $100 to $500 to $1,000 over the years provides tangible evidence that the strategy is working. It's much more emotionally satisfying than watching account balances that fluctuate wildly with market movements. The dividend checks arrive regardless of whether the stock price is up or down this quarter. The income is real and spendable, not just paper gains that could evaporate. This psychological sustainability is crucial. The best investment strategy in the world is worthless if you abandon it during a market downturn. Dividend investing's focus on income rather than price makes it easier to hold through market volatility. When stock prices fall, dividend yields actually increase. The same dollar dividend becomes a higher percentage of the lower price. This means bear markets can be excellent times to add to dividend positions, buying higher yields at lower prices. The income perspective transforms scary market drops into opportunity. As we prepare to move forward into other forms of passive income, let these dividend principles settle in your mind. The patient accumulation of shares, the automatic reinvestment of distributions, the quarterly rhythm of dividend payments, the slow, mathematical certainty of compound growth over decades. This is passive income in perhaps its most refined form. Highly liquid, easily diversified, requiring minimal expertise or ongoing management, accessible to anyone who can save and invest consistently. It's not the only form of passive income, as we'll explore, but it's arguably the most democratized and accessible. Let that understanding rest comfortably as we drift toward other passive income streams, each with their own characteristics and trade-offs, but all sharing that fundamental quality of money working while you sleep. Now expand Act 6 into full script with the word count mentioned in the outline. Keep the exact same style and writing rules analysed earlier. Let's move now from the broad sweep of history into the specifics of how dividend investing actually works, because this is perhaps the most accessible and time-tested form of passive income available to ordinary investors. We'll explore it slowly, carefully, understanding not just the mechanics but the quiet mathematics that make it powerful. Imagine you're holding a single share of stock in a well-established company. Let's say it's a utility company that provides electricity to millions of homes. The company has been operating for decades. It owns power plants, transmission lines, distribution networks. Every month, millions of customers pay their electric bills. That revenue flows into the company. After paying all the operating expenses, fuel for the plants, salaries for workers, maintenance on equipment, taxes to governments, what remains is profit. The company's board of directors meets quarterly to decide what to do with these profits. They could reinvest everything back into the business, building new power plants or upgrading infrastructure, and they do reinvest some portion, but they also declare a dividend, a payment to shareholders, perhaps 90 cents per share this quarter. If you own one share, you receive 90 cents. If you own 100 shares, you receive $90. If you own 1,000 shares, you receive $900. This 90 cents appears in your brokerage account without you doing anything. You didn't generate electricity, didn't maintain power lines, didn't collect bills from customers. You simply owned a piece of the company, and the company's profitable operations generated cash that was distributed proportionally to all owners. This is dividend income in its purest form, passive ownership generating active cash flow. Now consider what happens if this company is stable and profitable, as many utility companies are. Quarter after quarter, year after year, the dividend checks arrive. 90 cents per share this quarter, perhaps 92 cents next quarter. 95 cents the quarter after. The dividend grows slowly but steadily as the company's profits grow. Over a decade, the quarterly dividend might increase from 90 cents to $1.20. Your income from each share has grown by more than 30% without you doing anything except continuing to own the share. If you own 100 shares, your quarterly dividend has grown from $90 to $120. That's an extra $120 per year, or almost $500 annually. Not transformative money perhaps, but real income that requires zero ongoing labour from you. And if you've been reinvesting those dividends, using them to buy additional shares, the growth compounds even faster. Let's walk through the mathematics of dividend reinvestment slowly, because this is where passive income begins to multiply itself in ways that can feel almost magical. You start with 100 shares of that utility company. Each share pays 90 cents quarterly, so you receive $90 every 3 months, $360 per year. The stock price is, let's say, $30 per share. Instead of spending that $90, you reinvest it by buying more shares. At $30 per share, $90 buys 3 additional shares. So after the first quarter, you own 103 shares. Next quarter, those 103 shares each pay 90 cents, giving you $92.70. You reinvest again, buying another 3 shares plus a small fraction. Now you own 106 shares. This pattern continues, quarter after quarter. Each dividend payment is slightly larger than the last because you own slightly more shares. Each reinvestment buys slightly more shares. The growth accelerates gradually. After 1 year, you might own 112 shares instead of 100. After 5 years, 160 shares. After 10 years, 220 shares. After 20 years, 400 shares. Your quarterly dividend, which started at $90, is now $360 because you own 400 shares. That's $1,440 per year in dividend income from an initial investment of $3,000. And remember, this assumes the dividend per share stayed constant at 90 cents, which it probably wouldn't. If the dividend grew by even 3% annually, which is common for stable companies, the numbers become even more remarkable. Let's add that 3% annual dividend growth to our calculation. After 20 years of 3% annual growth, the quarterly dividend per share has increased from 90 cents to $1.62. Your 400 shares are now each paying $1.62 per quarter, giving you $648 quarterly, or $2,592 annually. Your passive income has grown from $360 to over $2,500 through the combination of reinvestment and dividend growth. This is the quiet power of dividend investing. The initial amount seems small, the growth seems slow, but over years and decades, the mathematics of compounding, dividends buying more shares, which generate more dividends, which buy even more shares, while the dividend per share itself grows, creates wealth that far exceeds what any reasonable hourly wage could generate from the same initial capital. The beauty of this approach is its passivity. Once you've bought the initial shares and set up automatic dividend reinvestment, the system runs itself. You check it occasionally to ensure the company remains healthy, that dividends are still being paid reliably. But there's no daily management, no active trading, no complex decisions. The company operates its business. Profits flow to shareholders. Dividends are declared, paid, and automatically reinvested. The share count grows, the income grows, and you do nothing except wait and let the system work. Of course, not all companies pay dividends, and not all dividend-paying companies are created equal. Understanding which types of companies make good dividend investments requires some knowledge. But the principles are straightforward. Mature, profitable companies in stable industries tend to pay reliable dividends. Utilities, consumer staples companies that make food and household products, established telecommunications firms, real estate investment trusts. These are sectors known for consistent dividend payments. Younger, faster-growing companies typically don't pay dividends. Technology companies in their growth phase reinvest all profits back into expansion. They're trying to build market share, develop new products, scale their operations. Dividends would require distributing cash that they'd rather use for growth. These companies can be excellent investments if their stock prices appreciate, but they don't provide current passive income the way dividend-paying companies do. Real estate investment trusts, commonly called REITs, deserve special attention in discussions of dividend investing because they are required by law to distribute at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders as dividends. A REIT might own apartment buildings, shopping centres, office buildings, industrial warehouses, or specialised properties like cell towers or data centres. The REIT collects rent from tenants, pays operating expenses, and distributes most of what remains to shareholders as dividends. This structure makes REITs particularly attractive for passive income seekers. The dividend yields, the annual dividend divided by the share price, are typically higher than regular stock dividends, often in the range of 3 to 6% annually compared to 1 to 3% for typical dividend stocks. A REIT trading at $50 per share with a 5% yield pays $2.50 in annual dividends. Own 100 shares and you receive $250 per year in passive income from the rents paid by tenants in properties you've never seen, managed by professionals you've never met. The mechanics are beautifully passive. Tenants pay monthly rent to the REIT. The REIT's property managers collect the rent, maintain the properties, find new tenants when units turn over. The REIT's corporate team manages finances, refinances debt when advantageous, buys new properties or sells underperforming ones. And quarterly, you receive your proportional share of the net rental income as a dividend. You've become, in essence, a landlord without any of the traditional headaches of property management. Of course, REITs aren't without risks. Property values fluctuate. Rental income can decline during economic downturns when vacancy rates rise. Interest rate changes affect REIT values because many REITs carry significant debt, and because higher interest rates make REIT dividends less attractive compared to bonds. But for investors willing to accept these risks and hold through market cycles, REITs provide a valuable source of passive income that's ultimately backed by tangible, income-generating real estate. Building a diversified dividend portfolio requires patience and regular investing. A common approach is to identify 20 to 30 high-quality dividend-paying companies across different sectors. Then systematically accumulate shares over time. Perhaps you invest $500 monthly. One month you buy shares of a utility company. Next month, a consumer staples company that makes toothpaste and soap. The following month, a REIT that owns shopping centres. Gradually, methodically, you build a collection of dividend-paying positions. Each position is small initially, but as dividends are paid and reinvested, as you continue adding new money each month, the portfolio grows. After 5 years, you might have accumulated $20,000 in dividend-paying stocks. At an average yield of 3%, that's $600 per year in passive income. After 10 years, $45,000 generating $1,350 annually. After 20 years, $120,000 producing $3,600 per year. After 30 years, perhaps $250,000 generating $7,500 annually. These projections assume consistent monthly investing of $500 with modest 7% average annual returns, which is below the historical long-term stock market average. They're conservative estimates. The actual results could be better with higher returns or worse with lower returns. Markets fluctuate, some investments fail, but the long-term trend for patient investors in diversified portfolios of quality companies has historically been upward. The passive income generated might never fully replace a working salary for most people. $7,500 per year is meaningful but not sufficient to live on for most individuals. However, it's a significant supplement. It could cover all grocery expenses, or utilities and insurance, or provide for vacations and discretionary spending. And for retirees with paid-off homes and lower expenses, dividend income combined with social security and perhaps a pension could be enough to live comfortably. More importantly, dividend income provides security and options. If you lose your job, dividend income continues flowing, providing some financial cushion during the job search. If you want to reduce your work hours, take a lower paying but more fulfilling job, or pursue creative projects that don't pay well, dividend income gives you the freedom to make those choices. It's not just about the amount of money, though, that certainly matters. It's about the autonomy that passive income creates, the reduction in dependence on any single employer or income source. The tax treatment of dividends adds another layer of consideration. In the United States, qualified dividends, those paid by most US corporations and held for a minimum period, are taxed at lower rates than ordinary income. For middle-income investors, qualified dividends might be taxed at 15%, compared to 22 or 24% for regular income. This makes dividend income more tax-efficient than wages. Though tax laws change and vary by country, the general principle often holds that investment income receives preferential treatment compared to earned income. Dividends held in tax-advantaged retirement accounts like IRAs or 401s aren't taxed until withdrawal, allowing them to compound faster. A dividend reinvestment plan inside an IRA means the full dividend buys new shares, none of it lost to taxes. Over decades, this tax-deferred compounding significantly increases the final accumulation. The same principles apply in other countries with their own versions of tax-advantaged retirement accounts. There's something deeply satisfying about dividend investing that goes beyond the mathematics. It connects you to the real economy in a tangible way. When you own shares in a company that makes products you use daily, the soap you wash with, the electricity powering your home, the phone service you rely on, the dividends you receive represent a share of all that productive economic activity. You're not gambling on price movements or speculating on future hype. You're participating in genuine wealth creation, in companies producing real goods and services that people value enough to pay for. The quarterly rhythm of dividend payments creates a satisfying regularity. Every 3 months, usually on roughly the same dates, the dividends arrive. It's predictable, reliable in a way that much of modern life isn't. Companies occasionally cut dividends during hard times, yes. But the best dividend payers take pride in maintaining and growing their distributions through economic cycles. Some companies have increased their dividends every year for decades, the so-called dividend aristocrats that have raised dividends for 25 consecutive years or more. These dividend aristocrats represent the pinnacle of dividend investing. Companies so well established, so consistently profitable, so committed to shareholders that they've managed to grow dividends year after year regardless of recessions, market crashes, or business challenges. Companies like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, 3M, household names that have rewarded shareholders with growing income streams for generations. Investing in such companies feels less like speculation and more like partnership with enduring enterprises. You're not trying to outsmart other investors or predict market movements. You're simply buying ownership in solid businesses and allowing their profitability to flow to you as passive income. There's a patience to this approach, a long-term perspective that aligns well with sleep-optimized thinking. You're not checking prices daily or worrying about short-term fluctuations. You're building an income stream that will support you years and decades into the future. The emotional aspect of dividend investing is worth acknowledging because it affects sustainability. Passive income strategies only work if you actually maintain them over long periods, and you're more likely to maintain an approach that feels emotionally comfortable. Dividend investing, with its focus on current income rather than price appreciation, with its quarterly payments providing regular positive feedback, tends to be emotionally sustainable for many investors. Watching your quarterly dividends grow from $50 to $100 to $500 to $1,000 over the years provides tangible evidence that the strategy is working. It's much more emotionally satisfying than watching account balances that fluctuate wildly with market movements. The dividend checks arrive regardless of whether the stock price is up or down this quarter. The income is real and spendable, not just paper gains that could evaporate. This psychological sustainability is crucial. The best investment strategy in the world is worthless if you abandon it during a market downturn. Dividend investing's focus on income rather than price makes it easier to hold through market volatility. When stock prices fall, dividend yields actually increase. The same dollar dividend becomes a higher percentage of the lower price. This means bear markets can be excellent times to add to dividend positions, buying higher yields at lower prices. The income perspective transforms scary market drops into opportunity. As we prepare to move forward into other forms of passive income, let these dividend principles settle in your mind. The patient accumulation of shares, the automatic reinvestment of distributions, the quarterly rhythm of dividend payments, the slow mathematical certainty of compound growth over decades. This is passive income in perhaps its most refined form, highly liquid, easily diversified, requiring minimal expertise or ongoing management, accessible to anyone who can save and invest consistently. It's not the only form of passive income, as we'll explore, but it's arguably the most democratized and accessible. Let that understanding rest comfortably as we drift toward other passive income streams, each with their own characteristics and trade-offs, but all sharing that fundamental quality of money working while you sleep. While dividend investing offers elegant passive income through paper assets, real estate has always held a special place in the passive income imagination. There's something tangible and enduring about property, something that feels more real than electronic shares in distant corporations. Let's explore carefully how real estate generates passive income, understanding both its powerful advantages and its genuine challenges. The fundamental appeal of rental property is straightforward. You purchase a building or portion of a building. You find tenants who need housing or commercial space. They pay you monthly rent. That rent covers your expenses, mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and ideally leaves some surplus as profit. Over time, you build equity as the mortgage is paid down, and the property may appreciate in value. Meanwhile, you collect monthly cash flow that continues as long as tenants occupy the space. Let's walk through a specific example slowly, understanding all the moving pieces. Imagine you find a duplex, a building with 2 separate apartments in a working-class neighborhood. The purchase price is $200,000. You make a down payment of 20%, which is $40,000, and finance the remaining $160,000 with a 30-year mortgage at 5% interest. Your monthly mortgage payment, covering principal and interest, is about $860. Each apartment rents for $1,000 per month, giving you $2,000 in total monthly rental income. Your expenses include the $860 mortgage payment, perhaps $200 for property taxes, $100 for insurance, and you should reserve another $200 monthly for maintenance and repairs. That's $1,360 in total expenses against $2,000 in rent, leaving $640 in monthly cash flow. This $640 is your passive income from the property, though we should be careful about the word passive. Rental properties require management. Tenants call when toilets leak or heaters break. You need to collect rent, sometimes chase late payments. Occasionally evict non-paying tenants and find replacements. If you manage the property yourself, this is active work, not passive income. But if you hire a property management company to handle these tasks, typically for 10% of collected rent, then the income becomes more genuinely passive. Hiring management reduces your cash flow by $200 monthly, 10% of your $2,000 rental income, leaving you with $440 per month, or $5,280 per year. This is your passive income from $40,000 invested, representing a 13% annual return on your down payment. That's significantly higher than typical stock dividend yields of 2 to 4%. But this comparison isn't quite fair because it involves different risk profiles and liquidity characteristics. Let's think about what makes rental property different from dividend stocks. First, rental property is leveraged. You control a $200,000 asset with $40,000 of your own money. This leverage amplifies returns when property values rise and rental income flows, but it also amplifies losses if property values fall or rental income disappears. Second, rental property is illiquid. If you need to access your capital quickly, selling a property takes months and involves significant transaction costs, real estate agent commissions, closing costs, potential repairs needed to make the property marketable. Stocks can be sold in seconds with minimal transaction costs. This liquidity difference matters enormously when unexpected financial needs arise. Third, rental property concentrates risk. Your $40,000 is invested in one specific building in one specific location. If that neighborhood declines, if a major employer closes causing local economic hardship, if environmental contamination is discovered nearby, your investment suffers. Diversifying across multiple properties requires far more capital than diversifying across multiple stocks. Fourth, rental property involves ongoing decisions and problems. Even with professional management, you're ultimately responsible when major systems need replacement. The roof, the furnace, the plumbing. These can cost thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. You decide whether to renovate to attract higher-paying tenants. You decide how to respond when the city changes zoning or imposes new regulations. Stocks require none of this ongoing decision-making. Yet despite these challenges, many people have built substantial passive income through rental real estate. The leverage works powerfully in your favor when you choose well. That duplex you bought for $200,000 might be worth $250,000 after 5 years. You've gained $50,000 in equity from appreciation, plus perhaps another $20,000 from mortgage principal paid down with rent money. Your total equity has grown from $40,000 to $110,000, nearly tripling in 5 years while generating $5,000 annually in cash flow. After 10 years, the property might be worth $300,000. Your mortgage balance has decreased to perhaps $125,000 through monthly principal payments. Your equity is now $175,000 from an initial $40,000 investment. And if rents have increased with inflation, your cash flow might now be $8,000 or $10,000 annually. This combination of appreciation, mortgage paydown, and growing cash flow creates wealth that can be difficult to match with other passive income vehicles. The key is choosing properties carefully and managing them competently. Location matters enormously. Properties in neighborhoods with good schools, low crime, convenient access to employment centers, and well-maintained infrastructure appreciate more reliably and attract better tenants who pay rent consistently. Properties in declining areas might look like bargains initially, but can become money pits as property values stagnate or fall while maintenance needs accumulate. The type of property matters too. Single-family homes are easiest to sell but often generate lower rental yields. Small multifamily properties like duplexes, triplexes, or quadplexes can offer better income while remaining manageable. Larger apartment buildings generate more income but require professional management and significant expertise to operate successfully. Commercial properties, office buildings, retail centers, industrial warehouses offer yet another set of opportunities and challenges. Some real estate investors focus on maximizing cash flow, seeking properties that generate strong monthly income relative to purchase price. Others focus on appreciation potential, willing to accept minimal cash flow in exchange for properties likely to increase significantly in value. The house hacking strategy combines both approaches. You buy a small multifamily property, live in one unit while renting the others, allowing rental income to cover most or all of your housing costs while building equity. Tax advantages make rental real estate particularly attractive as a passive income source. In the United States, rental property owners can depreciate buildings over 27.5 years for residential properties or 39 years for commercial properties. This depreciation is a non-cash expense that reduces taxable income without reducing actual cash flow. A property generating $10,000 in cash flow might show only $5,000 in taxable income after depreciation, reducing your tax burden substantially. Additionally, expenses related to rental properties are tax deductible. Mortgage interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, management fees, even travel to inspect properties. These deductions further reduce taxable income. And when you eventually sell, a 1031 exchange allows you to defer capital gains taxes by reinvesting proceeds into another property. This tax treatment, combined with leverage and the potential for both cash flow and appreciation, explains why real estate has created more millionaires than perhaps any other investment vehicle. But let's be honest about the challenges because they're real and significant. Finding good properties requires time, knowledge, and often patience. You might evaluate dozens of properties before finding one that meets your criteria at a price that makes financial sense. The due diligence process is complex. Property inspections, title searches, appraisals, environmental assessments. Making mistakes during acquisition can haunt you for years. Managing tenants is genuinely difficult work, even with professional property managers. Tenants stop paying rent and must be evicted. Eviction processes are slow and costly, leaving you covering the mortgage with no rental income for months. Tenants damage properties beyond normal wear and tear, requiring expensive repairs. Some tenants are simply difficult, constantly complaining, disturbing neighbours, violating lease terms in ways that don't quite justify eviction, but make your life miserable. Properties require ongoing capital investment beyond routine maintenance. Roofs last 20 to 30 years. They need complete replacement at costs of $10,000 to $20,000 or more. Heating and air conditioning systems last 15 to 20 years. Plumbing and electrical systems eventually need updating to meet changing codes. These aren't unexpected, you know they're coming, but they require holding cash reserves or having access to credit to fund them when the time arrives. Market cycles affect rental properties significantly. During the 2008 financial crisis, property values plummeted in many areas. Owners who had taken cash-out refinances or bought at the peak found themselves underwater, owing more than properties were worth. Some lost properties to foreclosure. Rental demand fell as unemployed tenants moved in with family or doubled up with roommates. Rental income that had seemed reliable disappeared. Passive income became active losses. Yet those who weathered the crisis, who had bought conservatively with adequate reserves, who could hold properties through the downturn, eventually recovered and often prospered. Property values recovered. Rental demand returned stronger than before. The lesson is that rental real estate as passive income requires financial cushion to survive inevitable market downturns. It's not a strategy for those living paycheck to paycheck, or those who might need to access their capital on short notice. The scaling challenge in rental real estate is significant. Each property requires individual acquisition, financing, management. Going from one rental property to 10 is far more complex than going from 100 shares of stock to 1,000. Some investors solve this by focusing on larger multifamily properties, but that requires sophistication in commercial real estate that most individuals don't possess. Others build teams, property managers, contractors, real estate agents that allow them to scale. But managing these teams becomes a business in itself, hardly passive. Still, in the right locations, beach towns, ski resorts, major tourist cities, short-term rentals can generate substantial income, and some owners use them creatively. Living in the property during off-season and renting it during peak tourist season. Maximizing both personal use and income generation. This approach is less passive than pure investment properties, but can work well for those willing to be actively involved part of the year in exchange for higher returns. The rise of turnkey rental property companies has attempted to make rental real estate more passive and accessible. These companies buy properties in markets with strong rental fundamentals, often in Midwest or southern cities, with affordable housing and growing populations, renovate them, place tenants, and sell them to investors who never visit the properties. The company continues managing the property indefinitely, handling all tenant issues and maintenance. The investor simply receives monthly or quarterly reports and deposits. This model has appeal. It makes rental income accessible to people in expensive coastal markets who couldn't afford local rental properties, and it eliminates the active management burden. But it introduces new risks. You're depending entirely on a management company thousands of miles away. You can't easily inspect the property or oversee management quality. Some turnkey companies have proven reliable, but others have been scams or have simply failed, leaving investors with problem properties in distant cities they don't know how to manage. Ultimately, rental real estate as passive income works best for those with sufficient capital to buy conservatively, maintain adequate reserves, and absorb occasional vacancies and unexpected expenses without financial distress. It works best for those willing to invest time learning about real estate markets, property evaluation, tenant screening, and property management, even if they eventually hire others to handle day-to-day operations. And it works best for those with patience to hold properties through market cycles, understanding that real estate wealth is built over decades, not months. For those who meet these criteria, rental real estate can be extraordinarily rewarding. The combination of leverage, cash flow, appreciation, and tax benefits creates wealth-building potential that's difficult to match. A portfolio of several well-chosen rental properties, held for 20 or 30 years, can generate tens of thousands of dollars in annual passive income, while accumulating hundreds of thousands or millions in equity. Many people have achieved financial independence primarily through rental real estate. But it's also true that many people have lost money in real estate, have found the management burden overwhelming, have concluded that the illiquidity and concentration risk weren't worth the potential returns. Real estate isn't inherently superior to stocks or other passive income sources. It's simply different, with its own characteristic advantages and disadvantages. The question isn't whether rental real estate is good or bad, but whether it suits your particular circumstances, temperament, and goals. When a recording artist wants to record the song, they pay a mechanical royalty to the songwriter, a few cents per copy sold or streamed. When a radio station plays the song, they pay a performance royalty through organizations like ASCAP or BMI, which collect fees from broadcasters and distribute them to songwriters. When the song appears in a movie or television show, a synchronization license fee is paid. When someone performs it at a concert, performance royalties are owed. Each of these uses generates income for the songwriter year after year, with no additional creative work required beyond that initial composition. A truly successful song can generate substantial passive income. Quote 3 before its copyright expired was earning approximately $2 million annually in licensing fees. Quote 4 by Irving Berlin has generated royalties every holiday season since 1942. These are exceptional cases, certainly, but they illustrate the potential. Even modestly successful songs can generate steady royalty income for decades. The beauty of music royalties is their passive nature. Once the song exists and is registered with the appropriate rights organizations, the systems for collecting and distributing royalties operate automatically. Radio stations report their playlists. Streaming services report plays. Film and TV productions obtain licenses. The songwriter does nothing except wait for quarterly royalty statements and checks. The money flows from countless uses by countless people, aggregated and distributed through established channels. Book publishing operates on similar principles. An author spends months or years writing a book, researching, drafting, revising, polishing. That's active, intensive creative work. But once the book is published, it can generate royalty income indefinitely. Traditional publishing contracts typically pay authors 10 to 15% of the cover price for hardcover books, 7 to 8% for paperbacks. If a book sells for $25 in hardcover and the author receives 15%, That's $3.75 per copy sold. A moderately successful book might sell 5,000 copies in its first year, generating about $18,750 for the author. If the book remains in print and continues selling steadily, perhaps 1,000 copies per year for the next decade, that's another $37,500 over 10 years. The total passive income from one book could exceed $50,000, earned over a decade from a year or two of initial creative work. Best-selling authors accumulate backlists of dozens of books, each generating ongoing royalties. Stephen King has published over 60 novels. John Grisham has written more than 40. Each book in their catalogues continues generating royalties years or decades after publication. The combined passive income from extensive backlists can be substantial, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars annually from books written long ago. Self-publishing has made book royalties more accessible to writers who might not secure traditional publishing deals. Through platforms like Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, authors can publish directly to readers, receiving up to 70% of the book price as royalty. A self-published ebook priced at $5.99 generates about $4.20 in royalties per copy sold at the highest royalty rate. The trade-off is that self-published authors must handle their own marketing and bear all production costs. But for those willing to do so, the passive income potential is significant. Software and digital products create particularly scalable intellectual property passive income. A software developer might spend 6 months building an application that solves a specific problem, perhaps a tool for managing photography workflows, or a plugin that extends the functionality of popular software. Once built, that application can be sold thousands of times, with essentially zero marginal cost for each additional copy. Digital distribution means no manufacturing, no shipping, no inventory. If the software sells for $49 and the developer sells 50 copies per month, that's $2,450 monthly, or $29,400 annually from software created once. The developer needs to provide customer support and occasional updates, so it's not completely passive, but the ratio of ongoing effort to income is favorable compared to trading hours for wages. Mobile apps operate similarly. A developer creates an app, publishes it to app stores, and earns revenue either through paid downloads, in-app purchases, or advertising. Successful apps can generate substantial passive income. Even moderately successful apps might earn several hundred to several $1,000s monthly from users around the world downloading and using them. The developer's ongoing work involves updates and bug fixes, but the core product was created once and continues generating income indefinitely. Online courses have emerged as a popular intellectual property passive income stream. An expert in some subject, photography, accounting, web development, fitness, cooking, whatever specialized knowledge they possess, creates a comprehensive course once, typically as a series of video lessons with supplementary materials. That course is then sold repeatedly to students through platforms like Udemy, Teachable, or their own websites. The economics can be compelling. Creating a thorough course might require 50 to 100 hours of work. Scripting lessons, recording videos, creating exercises and quizzes, editing everything into polished form. Once complete, the course can be sold for $50 to $200 or more to thousands of students. If a course sells for $99 and attracts 500 students over several years, that's $49,500 from that 100 hours of initial work, nearly $500 per hour of creative effort. The ongoing work is minimal. Students ask questions that need answering, but platforms often facilitate student-to-student discussion that reduces this burden. The course content might need updating every few years as the subject matter evolves, but the core product continues selling with minimal effort. Instructors who create multiple courses build catalogues that generate compounding passive income, similar to authors with extensive backlists. Patents represent the most legally protected form of intellectual property. granting inventors exclusive rights to their inventions for 20 years from the filing date. If you invent something genuinely novel and useful, patent it, and others want to manufacture or use it, they must license the patent from you. This creates potentially substantial passive income, as licensing fees flow from companies using your invention. Building a brand valuable enough to license requires substantial initial effort and often some luck. But once established, brand licensing can be remarkably passive and lucrative. The brand owner does minimal work beyond approving uses and ensuring quality standards are maintained. The licensees manufacture, market and sell products while paying quarterly royalties, typically 5 to 15% of wholesale prices. Franchising operates on related principles. A business owner develops a successful business model, a restaurant concept, a retail format, a service business system, then allows others to operate businesses using that model in exchange for franchise fees and ongoing royalties. The franchisees invest their money and effort operating individual locations. The franchisor provides the system, brand and support, while collecting initial franchise fees and ongoing royalties, typically 4 to 8% of franchisee revenues. McDonald's provides the classic example. The corporation owns relatively few restaurant properties directly. Instead, it franchises the McDonald's system to thousands of independent operators who pay to use the brand and business model. These franchise fees and royalties generate billions in passive income for the corporation from restaurants operated by others. Individual franchisers obviously operate at smaller scale, but the principle holds: create a replicable business system once, license it to motivated operators, collect ongoing royalties as passive income. The common thread running through all forms of intellectual property passive income is this: you create something valuable once through concentrated creative or inventive effort. Then you collect income repeatedly as others use, purchase, or license that creation. The initial work is intensive and active, but once complete, the income can flow for years, decades, or even centuries with minimal ongoing effort. This creates a fundamentally different economic proposition than selling time for money. When you work a job, you might earn $25 per hour. Work 1,000 hours, earn $25,000. Work another 1,000 hours, earn another $25,000. The income is linear, directly proportional to hours worked. But intellectual property income is exponential in potential. Work 1,000 hours creating a book, a course, a song, an invention, and you might earn that $25,000. Then earn it again next year from the same work, and again the year after, and potentially for decades. The catch, of course, is uncertainty and upfront investment. Most books don't become bestsellers. Most songs aren't hits. Most inventions don't get licensed. Most online courses attract few students. The majority of creative works generate little or no passive income despite significant effort invested. This makes intellectual property passive income risky compared to dividend stocks or rental property. You invest substantial time and often money with no guarantee of return. But the potential upside is also much higher. A successful book or song or invention can generate more passive income than most people could ever achieve through traditional investments, and unlike dividend stocks or rental property, intellectual property requires primarily creative effort rather than large capital. Someone with no money but valuable skills and knowledge can potentially build substantial passive income through intellectual property creation. The digital age has dramatically lowered barriers to intellectual property passive income. Before the internet, publishing a book required convincing a traditional publisher. Recording music required access to expensive studios and distribution networks. Teaching courses required institutional affiliation. Creating software required distribution deals. Now, all of these can be done independently with minimal upfront investment. The gatekeepers have been largely removed. This democratization means more competition, millions of self-published books, countless online courses, endless stock photos competing for attention. Standing out is harder, but it also means the opportunity is genuinely open to anyone willing to create valuable intellectual property and learn to market it effectively. You don't need connections or credentials or capital. You need skills, knowledge, persistence, and some luck. The tax treatment of intellectual property income varies, but is generally favourable. Royalties are often treated as passive income rather than earned income, potentially subject to lower tax rates. The initial costs of creating intellectual property, research expenses, equipment, software, legal fees, can often be deducted against future income. For those building significant intellectual property income, structures like limited liability companies or S corporations can provide additional tax benefits, though these require professional guidance to implement correctly. Building substantial passive income from intellectual property typically requires creating a catalogue over years. A single book, song, or course rarely generates enough income to live on, but 10 books, or 50 songs, or 20 courses, each generating modest passive income collectively can be significant. This catalogue approach requires patience and consistent creative output over extended periods. It's not a quick path to passive income, but for creative individuals willing to invest years building their catalogues, it can ultimately provide both financial freedom and the satisfaction of earning from your creative work. As you rest now, let these concepts of intellectual property settle gently in your mind. The songwriter earning royalties decades after composing a melody, the author collecting checks from books written years ago, the photographer licensing images thousands of times, the inventor receiving patent royalties, the course creator earning while they sleep from students worldwide. These are all forms of creative work translated into ongoing passive income. Available to anyone with skills and persistence. The initial effort is substantial, the outcome uncertain, but the potential to create income streams that flow for decades from finite creative work is unique to intellectual property. Let that possibility rest comfortably as we prepare to explore the newest frontier of passive income, digital products and online businesses that leverage technology to create scalable, automated income streams requiring minimal ongoing human effort. The internet has created entirely new categories of passive income that didn't exist a generation ago. These digital businesses and automated systems can generate income with a degree of scalability and passivity that previous generations couldn't have imagined. Let's explore this landscape carefully, understanding both the remarkable opportunities and the genuine effort required to build these modern passive income streams. The fundamental shift that the internet enabled was the separation of value creation from time and location. Before digital technology, providing value to someone typically required your physical presence or the production of physical goods. A teacher needed to be in a classroom, a consultant needed to meet with clients, a product manufacturer needed factories and warehouses. But digital products and services can be created once and delivered infinitely at essentially zero marginal cost. Consider the economics of a traditional product versus a digital product. If you manufacture physical widgets, each additional widget requires raw materials, manufacturing time, warehouse space, and shipping costs. Making and selling 1,000 widgets costs roughly 1,000 times more than making and selling one widget. But if you create a digital product, an ebook, a software tool, a video course, a template, a digital design, the second copy costs nearly nothing. So does the 1,000th copy. The entire cost is front-loaded in creation, after which distribution costs approach zero. This economic structure creates extraordinary passive income potential. A digital product creator might invest 200 hours creating a comprehensive resource, perhaps a collection of photography presets, or business plan templates, or meditation audio tracks. Once created, that digital product can be sold through automated systems to customers worldwide while the creator sleeps. Each sale happens automatically. The customer finds the product, purchases it, downloads it, receives automated email support, all without the creator's involvement. The entire transaction is automated. Let's walk through a specific example slowly to understand the mechanics. Imagine someone with expertise in resume writing creates a comprehensive digital package. Resume templates in multiple formats, cover letter templates, a video course on resume writing best practices, guides for different industries, interview preparation materials. Creating this package might require 300 hours of work over several months. The package is priced at $47. The creator sets up a simple website using platforms like Shopify or Gumroad that handle payment processing and automated digital delivery. They create some initial marketing content, blog posts about resume writing, free samples to attract interest, perhaps some YouTube videos offering resume tips that link to the paid product. Then they wait. Customers discover the product through search engines, through social media sharing, through the free content that establishes the creator's expertise. Some percentage of people who find the free content decide the paid package is worth $47. They purchase it. The payment platform automatically processes the transaction, delivers the digital files, and deposits money into the creator's account. The creator does nothing. They might be sleeping, traveling, working on other projects. The income flows regardless. In the first year, perhaps 200 people purchase the package, generating $9,400. Not life-changing money, but a meaningful return on 300 hours of work. $31 per hour, plus the income continues beyond the first year. In year 2, with accumulated free content attracting more search traffic, perhaps 300 people purchase it. Year 3, 400 people. The product is generating $18,800 annually by year 3, with minimal ongoing effort beyond occasional updates and marketing. This is the power of digital passive income. Create once, sell repeatedly, automate delivery, watch income accumulate. The initial work is substantial and completely active, but once the system is built, the passivity ratio improves dramatically. An hour spent updating the product or creating new marketing content might generate income for years. Affiliate marketing represents another digital passive income stream that works similarly. Instead of creating your own products, you promote other people's products and earn commissions on sales, generated through your unique referral links. The most common approach is creating content, blog posts, YouTube videos, podcasts, social media posts that provides genuine value to an audience while naturally incorporating product recommendations. A personal finance blogger might write detailed posts about budgeting strategies, investment approaches, or money-saving techniques. Within these posts, they include affiliate links to budgeting software, investment platforms, or books about personal finance. When readers click those links and make purchases, the blogger earns commissions, perhaps 10 to 50% of the purchase price depending on the affiliate program. The blogger's effort is creating the content. Once published, that content remains available indefinitely, potentially ranking in search results and attracting new readers for years. Each new reader might click affiliate links and generate commissions. The blogger might write a single comprehensive post in 5 or 6 hours. That post might rank well in search results and receive 10,000 visitors per year for the next 5 years, 50,000 visitors total. If 1% of visitors make purchases generating an average commission of $3, that single post generates $1,500 over 5 years from one day's work. Of course, most blog posts don't perform that well. Many generate little or no income, but the beauty of content-based affiliate marketing is accumulation. A blogger with 300 posts published over several years might find that 30 of them generate meaningful affiliate income. The other 270 contribute to overall site authority and occasionally generate commissions. The successful 30 posts collectively might generate several $1,000s monthly in passive income from affiliate commissions. YouTube channels operate on similar principles but with additional revenue streams. Content creators produce videos on topics they know well or that interest them: cooking, woodworking, financial advice, gaming, travel, whatever their expertise or passion. These videos are uploaded to YouTube, where they can be discovered by viewers searching for related content. YouTube's algorithm recommends videos to viewers likely to enjoy them, potentially exposing content to millions of people. Revenue comes from multiple sources. YouTube's partner program pays creators a share of advertising revenue from ads shown on their videos, typically between $3 and $5 per thousand views, though rates vary significantly by topic and audience demographics. Sponsored content deals allow creators to feature products or services within videos for direct payment from sponsors. Affiliate marketing lets creators include product links in video descriptions. Some creators sell their own merchandise or digital products to their audience. A YouTube channel with a back catalogue of 200 videos might receive 500,000 total views monthly across all those videos. At $4 per thousand views, that's $2,000 monthly from advertising alone. Add affiliate commissions, occasional sponsorships, and product sales, and monthly income might reach $3,000 to $5,000. This income flows from videos created months or years earlier, continuing to attract views and generate revenue with no additional work from the creator beyond managing the channel. The initial effort is substantial. Creating quality video content requires equipment, software, skills, and significant time. A 10-minute video might require several hours to script, film, edit, and upload. Building an audience takes consistency over months or years. Most channels never achieve meaningful income. But for those who persist and create content that resonates with audiences, the passive income potential is real. Print-on-demand businesses create another form of automated passive income. Services like Printful, Printify, or Amazon Merch allow you to upload designs for t-shirts, mugs, phone cases, posters, and hundreds of other products. When customers order products featuring your designs, the print-on-demand service manufactures the item, ships it directly to the customer, and pays you a royalty. You never handle inventory, never ship products, never deal with customer service beyond design issues. The business model is simple. Create appealing designs, upload them to print-on-demand platforms, optimize product listings with good titles and tags so they appear in search results, and wait for sales. Each sale generates a royalty, perhaps $5 to $10 per t-shirt depending on the base cost and retail price. The designer's only ongoing work is creating new designs and occasionally refreshing product listings. A designer might upload 500 designs across multiple products and platforms over a year. Perhaps 20 of those designs prove popular, each selling 10 to 30 items per month. The other 480 designs sell occasionally or not at all, but those 20 successful designs collectively generate 50 to 150 sales monthly, earning $500 to $1,500 in passive income. The designer could stop creating new designs, and that income would likely continue for months or years from the existing catalogue. The accumulation strategy applies here as in other digital businesses. More designs increase the odds that some will be popular. A catalogue of 2,000 designs has better chances than a catalogue of 200. But each design requires time to create, anywhere from 30 minutes for simple text-based designs to several hours for complex illustrations. The initial work is active. The passive income potential comes from successful designs selling repeatedly with no additional effort. Membership sites and subscription content create recurring passive income streams. Instead of one-time product sales, creators offer ongoing access to valuable content, tools, or community in exchange for monthly or annual subscription fees. A professional in some field might create a membership site offering monthly training videos, templates, worksheets, and community forum access for $29 per month. Acquiring 100 members generates $2,900 monthly in recurring revenue. The work isn't completely passive. New content must be created regularly to retain members. Community questions need responses. Technical issues require attention. But the content creation can be systematized, and the recurring nature of the income creates stability. A member who joins might remain subscribed for years, generating hundreds of dollars in total revenue from the initial acquisition. The ratio of value delivered to effort invested improves over time as the archive of past content grows, while the ongoing effort remains roughly constant. Podcast sponsorships offer passive income opportunities for those who build audiences through audio content. Creating podcast episodes requires consistent effort, researching topics, recording, editing, publishing. But once published, episodes remain available in podcast directories indefinitely, continuing to attract new listeners through search and recommendations. Sponsors pay podcasters based on audience size and engagement, typically $20 to $50 per 1,000 downloads for direct read host endorsements. A podcast averaging 10,000 downloads per episode might earn $300 to $500 per episode from sponsorships. Publishing weekly means roughly $2,000 monthly in sponsorship revenue. Old episodes continue attracting listeners and generating downloads for months or years, contributing to the overall numbers that justify higher sponsorship rates. The work of creating new episodes is ongoing and active, but the passive element comes from the back catalogue continuing to build audience and the recurring nature of sponsorship deals. Email marketing and newsletter monetization create passive income through audience building. A creator develops expertise or curates valuable information in some niche, offers a free email newsletter providing that value, and builds a subscriber list over time. The newsletter can be monetized through sponsorships, affiliate marketing, or promoting the creator's own products and services to an engaged audience. Building a list of 10,000 engaged subscribers might take several years of consistently publishing valuable content, but once built, that audience becomes an asset generating ongoing income. A weekly newsletter to 10,000 subscribers might include one sponsored mention worth $500 and several affiliate product recommendations generating another $300 weekly in commissions. That's $3,200 monthly, much of it from automated emails containing affiliate links or pre-scheduled sponsored content. The initial work of creating content and building the audience is intensive, but once the system is established, the marginal effort to maintain it decreases. Templates can be reused, content can be repurposed from other sources, automation tools can schedule emails and track engagement. The creator invests perhaps 10 to 20 hours weekly to maintain a newsletter generating several $1,000s monthly, a favourable effort-to-income ratio compared to most traditional employment. Software as a service represents perhaps the ultimate scalable digital passive income. A developer creates software that solves a problem for a specific audience, perhaps project management for freelancers, or invoicing for small businesses, or customer relationship management for real estate agents. Instead of selling the software once, they offer it as a subscription service. Customers pay monthly fees for access and ongoing updates. The development effort is substantial up front, potentially hundreds or thousands of hours building the initial version. But once operational, a software service can scale dramatically. The same software serves 10 customers as easily as it serves 10,000 customers, with minimal increase in costs. Server costs increase with usage, but modestly. Customer support requirements grow, but can be systematized through documentation, automated responses, and tiered support staff. A solo developer might build a niche software tool and acquire 500 paying customers at $29 monthly. That's $14,500 in monthly recurring revenue. The developer spends 20 to 30 hours weekly on customer support, bug fixes, and incremental improvements. It's not completely passive, but the ratio of income to effort far exceeds what hourly employment would provide, and the business could potentially scale to thousands of customers and hundreds of thousands in monthly revenue with modest expansion of effort and systems. The common threads across all these digital passive income streams are leverage and automation. Digital products leverage creation effort by selling the same product repeatedly at zero marginal cost. Automated systems leverage technology to handle transactions, delivery, and customer management without human intervention. Content creation leverages expertise into assets that continue attracting audiences and generating revenue long after initial publication. But let's be honest about the challenges because they're significant and often understated by those promoting digital passive income as easy money. Building any of these income streams requires substantial initial effort with no guarantee of success. Most digital products don't sell well. Most YouTube channels don't achieve monetization. Most blogs don't attract enough traffic to generate meaningful affiliate income. Most print-on-demand designs don't sell. The success stories are real, but they're outliers, not typical results. The competition is intense. Millions of people worldwide have recognized the potential of digital passive income and are creating products, content, and businesses. Standing out requires either exceptional quality, unique positioning, effective marketing, or some combination. Simply creating something and waiting for sales is rarely sufficient. Ongoing marketing, audience building, and optimization are usually necessary even after the initial product or content is created. The platforms that enable digital passive income can change rules unpredictably. YouTube adjusts its algorithm, affecting which videos get recommended. Amazon changes its affiliate commission rates, reducing income from existing content. Google updates search algorithms, causing blog traffic to plummet. App stores modify policies, requiring expensive updates to maintain compliance. Relying heavily on any single platform creates vulnerability to changes beyond your control. Technology requirements can be intimidating for non-technical creators. Building websites, setting up payment processing, managing email lists, editing videos, creating graphics, these tasks require learning curves. Tools and services exist to simplify these processes, but they cost money and still require time to learn. The romanticized vision of passive income flowing with minimal effort ignores the real technical and creative skills required to build these systems. Tax and legal complexity increases with digital passive income. You're typically operating as a business, requiring proper registration, bookkeeping, and tax filing. Income from multiple sources, affiliate programs, YouTube, digital products, sponsorships, must be tracked and reported correctly. International sales add complexity around tax obligations in different jurisdictions. Professional accounting help becomes necessary as income scales, adding to costs and complexity. Yet despite these challenges, digital passive income remains extraordinarily accessible compared to historical wealth-building methods. You need no capital to start a YouTube channel or blog. Minimal investment creates a print-on-demand business or affiliate marketing site. A few $1,000s covers the cost of creating quality digital products or simple software tools. The barriers to entry are dramatically lower than rental real estate or traditional business creation. The scalability is also unprecedented. A rental property generates finite income limited by physical constraints. A traditional business scales linearly with effort and capital, but digital businesses can scale exponentially through network effects and zero marginal costs. A digital product that took 300 hours to create generates the same income whether it sells to 100 people or 100,000 people. The upside potential is essentially unlimited. This combination, low barriers to entry and unlimited upside potential, explains the explosion of interest in digital passive income. It democratizes wealth creation in ways previous generations couldn't access. A person with no money, no connections, and no formal credentials, but with valuable knowledge and a willingness to work can potentially build substantial passive income through digital products and content. The key is managing expectations and approaching it with patience and persistence. Digital passive income typically isn't quick. Building an audience, creating a catalog, optimizing systems, learning what works, these processes take months or years, not days or weeks. But for those who commit to consistent effort over extended periods, who keep creating and improving even when initial results are modest, the passive income potential is real, and can eventually exceed what traditional employment provides. As we rest now and contemplate what you've learned about digital passive income, let these concepts settle comfortably. The software developer earning recurring revenue from hundreds of subscribers, the content creator generating ad revenue and affiliate commissions from videos watched while they sleep, the designer receiving royalties from print-on-demand sales of creations uploaded months ago, the course creator collecting payments from students worldwide accessing their digital lessons. These modern passive income streams, enabled by technology and global connectivity, represent opportunities accessible to anyone with skills and persistence. They're not easy or guaranteed, but they're possible in ways that weren't true just decades ago. Let that possibility rest gently in your mind as we prepare to explore the darker side of passive income pursuits, the scams, misconceptions, and genuine risks that anyone seeking financial freedom through passive income must understand and navigate carefully. The promise of passive income attracts not only legitimate seekers of financial freedom, but also opportunists, scammers, and those peddling unrealistic dreams. Let's explore this shadowy landscape carefully, understanding the red flags, the common scams, and the psychological vulnerabilities that make people susceptible to schemes that promise easy wealth but deliver only disappointment and loss. The fundamental appeal of passive income creates the perfect conditions for exploitation. People desperately want to believe that wealth can flow effortlessly, that financial freedom is just one investment or system away, that they can escape the grind of trading time for money. This desire, this hope, makes people vulnerable to promises that sound too good to be true because those promises align with what they desperately want to be true. Consider the classic pyramid scheme structure, which has adapted itself to modern passive income narratives. The scheme promises that you can earn passive income by recruiting others who recruit others in turn, creating multiple levels of commissions flowing upward. You're told to invest perhaps $500 or $1,000 to join, receiving some token product or service that supposedly justifies the payment. But the real money comes from recruiting others who also pay to join and recruit further members. The mathematics of pyramid schemes guarantee eventual collapse. If each person recruits 5 people, who each recruit 5 more, the scheme exhausts the entire global population within a dozen levels. Early participants might genuinely make money from those who join after them, creating testimonials that seem to validate the opportunity. But the vast majority of participants, those who join after the early stages, lose their investment because they cannot recruit enough people to recover their costs. These schemes often disguise themselves with passive income language. You're building a team that generates residual income. You're creating leverage through network effects. You're investing in a system that pays you while you sleep. The terminology sounds sophisticated and aligns with legitimate passive income concepts, making it harder to recognize the fundamental fraud. But the core structure remains unchanged. Most participants lose money to enrich a few at the top. Multi-level marketing companies occupy a grey area between legitimate business and pyramid schemes. Some MLMs sell genuine products and allow distributors to earn reasonable income through direct sales and building sales teams. But many MLMs are effectively pyramid schemes with token products providing legal cover. The focus is on recruitment rather than retail sales. Distributors are encouraged to buy inventory that they struggle to sell, while being told their real income will come from recruiting others who also buy inventory. The passive income pitch in MLMs is particularly insidious. You're told that after initial effort building your downline, you'll earn residual income from your team's sales while you do minimal work. The reality is that maintaining income requires constant recruitment as team members quit, which happens frequently when people realize they're losing money. What's sold as passive income becomes an exhausting treadmill of recruitment and retention, with most participants earning little or nothing. The statistics are damning. The Federal Trade Commission has found that in many MLMs, over 99% of participants lose money once their own product purchases are factored in. The few who earn substantial income do so by recruiting aggressively, and often by making exaggerated income claims to prospects. The passive income promise is largely a mirage used to recruit new victims into a system that systematically transfers wealth upward. Get-rich-quick courses and programs represent another common scam category. These are marketed through compelling sales pages or videos, promising to reveal the secrets of passive income. Perhaps it's day trading systems guaranteeing consistent profits, or real estate strategies requiring no money down, or dropshipping methods that will generate thousands in passive income within weeks. The courses cost anywhere from $97 to several $1,000s. What you receive is typically generic information available for free online, wrapped in professional packaging and accompanied by exaggerated success stories. The real business model isn't helping students build passive income, it's selling courses about passive income. The course creator's passive income comes from course sales, not from actually implementing the strategies they teach. If the strategies worked reliably, the creator would profit more from using them than from teaching them. The psychology of these scams is sophisticated. They create artificial urgency. Enrollment closes tonight, only 10 spots available, prices increase tomorrow. They use social proof, testimonials from successful students, often fabricated or cherry-picked from the tiny percentage who had success. They exploit authority. The course creator presents themselves as an expert or insider with special knowledge. They promise transformation. Your life will change, financial freedom awaits, you'll regret missing this opportunity. People who purchase these courses often feel too embarrassed to admit they were scammed. They've invested hundreds or thousands of dollars and significant time following the course instructions. Admitting it was worthless means admitting they were foolish. So they often remain silent, allowing the scam to continue victimizing others. The lack of public complaint creates an illusion that the courses must have value, when in fact most purchasers simply aren't talking about their disappointment. Cryptocurrency and NFT schemes have provided new vehicles for passive income fraud. Your promise guaranteed returns from staking cryptocurrencies, or passive income from holding NFTs that pay dividends, or automated trading bots that generate consistent profits. These schemes exploit technological confusion. Most people don't understand blockchain technology, smart contracts, or cryptocurrency mechanics, making them easier to deceive with technical-sounding promises. Many cryptocurrency passive income schemes are simply Ponzi schemes. Early investors receive payments from new investors' money, creating the illusion of legitimate returns. Those early payments convince more people to invest larger amounts. Eventually, when new investment slows, the scheme collapses. Organizers disappear with remaining funds. Investors lose everything. The promised passive income was entirely fictional. Just money shuffled from later victims to earlier ones. The decentralized and often international nature of cryptocurrency makes fraud easier and recovery harder. There's no bank to reverse transactions, no regulatory agency with clear jurisdiction, no customer service to complain to. Once you've sent cryptocurrency to a scammer, it's gone. The promise of decentralization that attracts people to cryptocurrency also removes the safety nets that traditional finance provides. Social media has amplified passive income scams by providing free marketing platforms and easy ways to create false credibility. Someone creates an Instagram or TikTok account, rents expensive cars and houses for photo shoots, posts images suggesting wealth from their passive income system, and attracts followers desperate to replicate that success. They sell courses or coaching or investment opportunities to their followers. The passive income they actually earn comes from selling to followers, not from the methods they claim to teach. The manufactured lifestyle is entirely fake. Rented luxury, borrowed wealth, carefully curated to create an illusion of success from passive income. But it's psychologically powerful. Seeing someone apparently your age living a life of luxury, while claiming it came from simple passive income systems, they'll teach you triggers both envy and hope. You want what they appear to have. You want to believe their path is accessible to you. Critical thinking diminishes in the face of those powerful emotions. Identifying scams requires understanding common warning signs. Guaranteed returns are a major red flag. Legitimate investments always carry risk, and anyone promising guaranteed passive income is either lying or running a scheme that will eventually collapse. Pressure to act immediately suggests manipulation rather than genuine opportunity. Real opportunities don't evaporate if you take time to research and consider carefully. Emphasis on recruitment over actual product or service sales indicates pyramid structure. If the primary way to earn is convincing others to join rather than selling valuable products to end consumers, the model is fundamentally unsustainable. Complex explanations that use technical jargon without clear underlying logic often hide fraudulent structures. Scammers rely on confusion to prevent critical examination. Lack of verifiable track record or reluctance to provide detailed information about risks and potential downsides suggests dishonesty. Legitimate passive income opportunities acknowledge risks clearly. They provide realistic timelines and expectations. They don't promise that everyone will succeed or that success requires minimal effort. Any pitch that downplays difficulty or risk while emphasizing guaranteed rewards deserves extreme skepticism. Beyond outright scams, there are many legitimate but risky passive income opportunities that are often misrepresented. Forex trading is real and some people do make money from it, but the vast majority of retail Forex traders lose money. Marketing Forex trading as passive income through automated systems ignores the reality that successful trading requires substantial knowledge, experience, and active management. The automation is a tool, not a magic solution. Options trading strategies like covered calls or cash-secured puts can generate income. But they're not truly passive. They require understanding of options pricing, volatility, and risk management. They can produce losses as easily as gains if market conditions shift. Presenting options trading as simple passive income for beginners is misleading at best, potentially destructive at worst. Peer-to-peer lending platforms allow you to earn interest by funding loans to individuals or small businesses. This can provide passive income at rates higher than traditional savings accounts, but it also carries real risk of borrower default. Your capital isn't insured like bank deposits. Some platforms have failed, leaving lenders unable to recover their investments. It's a legitimate passive income option, but requires diversification across many loans and acceptance that some portion will default. Even legitimate passive income methods like dividend stocks or rental real estate can be misrepresented to make them seem easier or more reliable than reality. A real estate guru might showcase properties generating excellent cash flow without mentioning the extensive renovations required, the challenging tenant situations faced, or the properties that lost money. A dividend investing expert might highlight their winners while ignoring the companies that cut dividends or went bankrupt. This isn't necessarily intentional fraud. It's often selection bias. People naturally remember and share their successes more readily than their failures. But it creates a distorted picture that misleads others about the realistic difficulty and risk involved in building passive income. Someone following the same strategies might experience very different results depending on market timing, local conditions, or simply luck. The psychological damage from passive income scams extends beyond financial loss. Victims often feel profound shame and self-blame. They question their judgment and intelligence. They become cynical about legitimate opportunities, sometimes abandoning wealth-building efforts entirely. The emotional cost of being scammed can be more lasting than the financial cost, particularly when the scam exploited deep hopes for escaping financial stress or achieving security. Recovering from passive income scams requires both practical and emotional work. Practically, victims should document everything related to the scam: emails, transactions, promises made, and report to appropriate authorities. In the United States, that might include the Federal Trade Commission, State Attorney General, or Securities and Exchange Commission depending on the nature of the scam. Recovery of lost funds is unlikely, but reporting helps authorities identify patterns and potentially prevent others from being victimized. Emotionally, recovery requires self-compassion. Scams succeed because they're sophisticated and exploit normal human psychology. Being victimized doesn't indicate stupidity or weakness. It indicates exposure to skilled manipulation. Learning from the experience, understanding what red flags you missed, what vulnerabilities were exploited, is valuable without needing to engage in harsh self-judgment. It's also worth understanding that skepticism, while valuable for avoiding scams, shouldn't transform into blanket cynicism about passive income generally. Real passive income opportunities exist. Dividends from quality companies genuinely provide reliable income. Rental properties truly can generate cash flow. Digital products legitimately sell and provide ongoing revenue. Intellectual property creates real royalty streams. The existence of scams doesn't negate these realities. The challenge is developing discernment, the ability to distinguish between legitimate passive income opportunities that require real effort and carry real risks but can succeed, and scams that promise easy wealth through methods that cannot work as claimed. This discernment comes from education, from understanding how wealth actually builds, from recognizing that legitimate passive income is rarely easy or quick, but is achievable through patient, informed effort. One helpful framework is considering whether the passive income model creates genuine value. Dividend stocks represent ownership of companies creating valuable products and services. The passive income comes from sharing in real economic productivity. Rental properties provide housing people need. The passive income comes from providing valuable shelter. Digital products solve problems or teach skills people want. The passive income comes from delivering genuine value at scale. Pyramid schemes create no value. They just shuffle money between participants. Get-rich-quick courses typically provide minimal value compared to their cost. Cryptocurrency Ponzi schemes generate no real returns, only the illusion of returns from new victim money. When you examine a passive income opportunity, ask what real value is being created. If the answer is unclear, or if the value seems to come mainly from recruiting others into the same opportunity, extreme caution is warranted. Another useful question is about sustainability. Could this passive income method continue working if millions of people adopted it? Dividend vesting scales well. Markets can accommodate many investors without diminishing returns for all. Rental property has some scaling limits related to housing supply, but it's fundamentally sustainable, creating valuable digital products or content scales effectively. But pyramid schemes mathematically cannot scale beyond a few levels. Trading systems that supposedly generate guaranteed returns would stop working if widely adopted because markets adapt to eliminate easy profits. Time horizons provide another filter. Legitimate passive income usually requires years to build. You accumulate dividend stocks over decades. You hold rental properties through market cycles. You create content libraries or product catalogs over months and years. Anything promising substantial passive income in weeks or months deserves deep skepticism. Real wealth building is patient work. Quick results usually indicate either unsustainable models or outright fraud. Understanding your own psychology helps protect against scams. If you find yourself feeling desperate for quick solutions to financial problems, the desperation makes you vulnerable. Scammers target desperation. They promise exactly what desperate people want to hear. Recognizing your own vulnerability, acknowledging that you're in a mental state where you might make poor decisions, allows you to pause and seek objective perspective before committing money to opportunities that seem too good to be true. Similarly, if you find yourself caught up in excitement about an opportunity, feeling pressure to act immediately before you miss out, that urgency is a warning sign worth heeding. Legitimate opportunities don't require rushed decisions. Taking time to research, to consult with financially knowledgeable people you trust, to sleep on the decision, These practices protect against impulsive choices that benefit scammers. The passive income landscape contains both genuine opportunities and predatory scams, often side by side, sometimes deliberately disguised to appear similar. Building real passive income requires effort, knowledge, patience, an acceptance of risk and uncertainty. It's achievable but not easy. Anyone promising it's easy is either selling you something or doesn't understand what they're talking about. This truth is less appealing than promises of quick, effortless wealth, but it's the truth nonetheless, and accepting it is the first step toward building passive income that's real rather than illusory. As we rest now, having explored this darker territory of scams and misconceptions, let these lessons settle gently. The importance of skepticism without cynicism, the need to verify claims independently, the value of understanding that legitimate passive income requires work and time, the recognition that your hopes and desires make you vulnerable to manipulation. These aren't cheerful thoughts, perhaps, but they're protective knowledge. Understanding the landscape of scams helps you navigate around them toward genuine opportunities. Let that protective wisdom rest comfortably as we move forward toward exploring the psychological and practical realities of actually building passive income, understanding the mindset shifts required, and the common mistakes that even those pursuing legitimate strategies often make. Having acknowledged the scams and false promises, let's turn now to the genuine psychological and practical work required to build real passive income. Because even when pursuing legitimate strategies, most people encounter internal obstacles and make common mistakes that slow or prevent their progress. Understanding these challenges helps us navigate them more successfully. The first psychological shift required is accepting delayed gratification. Modern life conditions us to expect immediate results. We click a button and a product arrives tomorrow. We send a message and receive a response within minutes. We search for information and get answers instantly. This expectation of immediacy becomes a liability when building passive income, because passive income is fundamentally a delayed gratification proposition. You invest money today in dividend stocks and receive small quarterly payments years before they accumulate to meaningful amounts. You create content today that might not attract significant audience for months or years. You save for a rental property down payment over years before making the purchase that begins generating cash flow. The gratification is real but delayed, sometimes by years or decades. This requires psychological endurance that runs counter to our trained expectations. The ability to delay gratification correlates strongly with long-term success in many domains. The famous marshmallow experiment from the 1970s showed that children who could resist eating one marshmallow immediately in order to receive 2 marshmallows later tended to have better life outcomes decades later. The same principle applies to passive income. Those who can forego spending or immediate returns in favor of investing for future passive income accumulate far more wealth over time than those who cannot resist immediate gratification. Developing this capacity requires conscious practice. You must find ways to make the delayed future feel real and valuable enough to motivate present sacrifice. Visualization helps some people, regularly imagining the future life enabled by passive income, making it vivid and emotionally resonant. Tracking progress helps others, watching dividend income grow quarter by quarter, or content libraries expand, makes the distant goal feel closer and the current sacrifices worthwhile. The second psychological challenge is maintaining consistency through long periods without visible results. This is particularly difficult in the early stages of building passive income. You might invest $500 monthly in dividend stocks for 2 years, accumulating $12,000 that generates perhaps $300 annually in dividends. That's less than $1 per day. It feels insignificant. The temptation to give up, to decide it's not worth the sacrifice, becomes strong. Or you create content consistently for 6 months, publishing blog posts or videos weekly, and your audience remains tiny. you're putting in hours of work weekly for income that rounds to zero. The rational voice in your head questions whether this effort makes sense. Wouldn't you be better off working overtime at your job, earning immediate money rather than pursuing this passive income dream that shows no signs of materializing? This is where most people quit. Right before compound growth begins accelerating noticeably, right before audiences reach critical mass that triggers algorithmic recommendations, right before accumulated dividend shares begin generating meaningful income. The quit point is often just before the breakthrough point. But you can't see the breakthrough coming. You can only see months or years of effort with minimal results. Pushing through this period requires faith in the mathematical processes underlying passive income. Compound growth starts slowly but accelerates predictably if you maintain consistency. Exponential curves look linear or even flat in their early stages, then suddenly turn sharply upward. Audiences grow slowly through patient content creation until network effects kick in and growth accelerates. Understanding these patterns intellectually helps you maintain faith when emotional doubt tempts you to quit. It also helps to celebrate small milestones rather than focusing only on the distant ultimate goal. Your first dollar of dividend income, even if it's tiny, represents the system working. Your first affiliate sale, your first digital product purchase, your first rental property tenant. These are meaningful achievements worth acknowledging. They prove the concept even if the amounts are small. Recognizing these small wins provides emotional fuel to continue through the long middle period before results become substantial. The third psychological challenge is managing risk tolerance and uncertainty. Passive income inherently involves uncertainty. Stock markets fluctuate. Rental properties face vacancies. Content might not find audiences. Digital products might not sell. Unlike a job where you trade time for predictable wages, passive income requires accepting that your efforts might not produce the hoped-for results. This uncertainty creates anxiety for many people. The security of a paycheck, even if the amount is limiting, feels safer than the uncertainty of passive income that might generate more but might also generate nothing. Risk tolerance varies considerably between individuals based on temperament, life circumstances, and financial cushion. Understanding your own risk tolerance helps you choose passive income strategies that match your psychology. This doesn't require living miserably or denying yourself all enjoyment. It requires finding a comfortable lifestyle level that meets your genuine needs and brings satisfaction, then holding that level steady as income rises rather than constantly upgrading. The increasing gap between income and spending becomes your passive income building fund. Over time, passive income fills that gap, eventually exceeding your spending level and providing genuine financial freedom. The fifth challenge is overcoming perfectionism and analysis paralysis. Many people postpone starting passive income building because they feel they don't know enough yet, haven't found the perfect strategy, aren't certain they're making optimal choices. They research endlessly, reading books and articles, watching videos, always learning but never implementing. This perfectionism is understandable. Passive income building involves real money and real risk. Making mistakes can cost you. The desire to avoid mistakes by learning everything first feels rational. But it becomes a trap because you can never know everything, never achieve perfect certainty. At some point you must act despite incomplete knowledge. Learning through experience rather than just study. The seventh challenge is managing the practical learning curves associated with different passive income strategies. Each approach requires specific knowledge and skills. Real estate investing demands understanding property evaluation, financing, tenant law, maintenance. Dividend investing requires understanding financial statements, business models, valuation. Digital product creation requires marketing, platform management, customer service. These aren't impossibly difficult to learn, but they do require time and effort. Many people underestimate these learning curves, expecting passive income to flow almost immediately once they start. The reality is that competence develops gradually through study and experience. Your first rental property purchase will be slower and more uncertain than your 10th. Your first digital product launch will be rougher than your 20th. Your early investment decisions will be less informed than those made after years of studying companies and markets. Accepting that you're a beginner and will make beginner mistakes reduces frustration and supports persistence. You're not failing because your first attempts aren't immediately successful. You're learning, developing competence that will serve you for decades. The learning curve is part of the process, not evidence that passive income doesn't work for you. Give yourself permission to be incompetent initially and improve through practice. These fluctuations test your resolve. When your dividend income drops 20% during a recession, when rental vacancy persists for months, when affiliate income declines steadily, these periods shake confidence and tempt abandonment of strategies. The emotional challenge is maintaining long-term perspective when short-term results disappoint. This is where understanding historical patterns helps. Stock market declines, sometimes severe, happen regularly. They're followed by recoveries and new highs. Rental market downturns occur. They pass. Digital platforms change. Creators adapt. These cycles are normal, not indicators that your strategy is fundamentally flawed. Expecting smoothness sets you up for disappointment. Expecting fluctuation while maintaining faith in long-term trends supports persistence through inevitable difficult periods. Building emotional resilience requires developing what could be called patient optimism, belief that your passive income strategies will work over long time horizons, combined with patience to endure short-term setbacks without panic. This mindset is cultivated through education about market history, through experience weathering smaller fluctuations, and through maintaining financial cushions that prevent short-term pressures from forcing poor long-term decisions. Defining your enough number brings clarity and provides a definitive goal. Perhaps you determine that $5,000 monthly in passive income covers your basic expenses and provides the security you seek, or that $20,000 monthly enables the lifestyle changes you desire. Having this specific number makes passive income building feel more concrete. You can track progress toward it. You can celebrate hitting milestones, 25% of the way there, 50%, 75%. And when you reach it, you can actually make the life changes rather than moving the goalposts and continuing to accumulate indefinitely. As these psychological challenges and practical realities settle in your mind, recognize that they're not obstacles preventing passive income building, but rather the terrain through which any successful passive income journey passes. Everyone who has built meaningful passive income has navigated delayed gratification, maintained consistency through long periods of minimal results, managed risk and uncertainty, avoided lifestyle inflation, overcome perfectionism, maintained focus, climbed learning curves, balanced present and future, weathered setbacks emotionally, and aligned their efforts with deeper values and purposes. These challenges don't indicate you're doing it wrong. They indicate you're doing it right but finding it difficult, which is normal and expected. The difficulty is part of the process. Working through these psychological and practical challenges develops not just passive income, but also qualities of patience, discipline, resilience, and clarity that serve you in every area of life. The passive income you build is the external result. The person you become through building it is perhaps the more valuable outcome. Eliminating or reducing just a few of these expenses might free up $100 monthly. That's your beginning. $100 monthly invested in a low-cost index fund at 7% average annual return becomes about $15,000 in 10 years, $37,000 in 20 years. It's not transformative wealth, but it's a foundation. And more importantly, it establishes the habit and mechanism of saving and investing that can scale as income increases. The psychological importance of starting, even with tiny amounts, cannot be overstated. Opening an investment account and setting up automatic monthly contributions of $100 makes you an investor. You're participating in capital markets, building passive income, however modest. This identity shift matters. You begin seeing yourself differently, making decisions differently, learning differently. The amount is almost secondary to the establishment of the practice. As income increases through raises or job changes or side income, resist the temptation to absorb increases entirely into spending. Instead, direct at least half of any income increase toward passive income building. If you get a $200 monthly raise, increase your investment contribution by $100 and allow lifestyle to expand by the other $100 if needed. This splits the benefit between present and future, maintaining motivation while steadily growing your passive income building capacity. The digital product path from moderate starting capital requires different investment, primarily time rather than money. Use the $10,000 savings as an emergency fund, providing security while you invest evenings and weekends, creating digital products, content, or online business. Perhaps you spend 6 months creating a comprehensive online course, or building a library of stock photos, or developing a software tool, or creating print-on-demand designs. The opportunity cost is real. Those hours could be spent on paid side work earning immediate money. But if you earn $20 per hour, 400 hours of side work generates $8,000. 400 hours creating digital products that sell steadily might generate that $8,000 over several years, but it continues generating income beyond that initial equivalent, potentially for decades. The delayed gratification trade-off can favor creation over immediate paid work if you can afford to wait for returns. Diversify across passive income types as capital grows. Early on, you might focus entirely on dividend stocks because that's what your limited capital allows. But as you accumulate wealth, adding rental real estate provides diversification, different risk factors, different return drivers, different tax treatment. Then perhaps adding digital products or intellectual property creates a third stream. Multiple passive income sources provide both higher total income and greater security if any single source faces challenges. Reinvest passive income aggressively in the accumulation phase. When you're building toward financial independence, every dollar of passive income should be reinvested to generate more passive income. Dividends buy more dividend stocks. Rental property cash flow funds, down payments on additional properties. Digital product revenue finances, creating more products or marketing existing ones. This compounding accelerates growth far faster than consuming passive income as it is generated. Protect yourself legally and financially as passive income grows. Rental properties should probably be held in limited liability companies to shield personal assets from property-related lawsuits. Significant investment portfolios might benefit from umbrella insurance policies. Digital businesses operating at scale need proper business entity structures and contracts. These protections seem unnecessary when starting, but implementing them becomes important as your passive income empire grows. Tax planning becomes increasingly important as passive income scales. Understanding how different passive income sources are taxed, which deductions are available, how to time income recognition, whether entity structures would reduce tax burden. These considerations can save thousands or tens of thousands of dollars annually at meaningful passive income levels. Professional tax advice pays for itself many times over once your passive income exceeds several $1,000s annually. Periodically reassess your strategies and goals as life circumstances change. Marriage, children, career changes, health issues, geographical moves. These life events might require adjusting your passive income approach. Strategies that made sense when you were single might not work with family responsibilities. Goals that felt right at 30 might shift at 50. Your passive income plan should evolve with your life rather than being rigidly fixed. At some point, if you maintain consistency, your passive income will exceed your expenses. This is financial independence, the point where you could theoretically live entirely on passive income without working. For some, This moment triggers retirement from traditional employment. For others, it simply provides security and freedom to make career choices based on interest rather than financial necessity. Either way, it represents a fundamental shift in your relationship to work and money. The path is now clear. The specific steps you take depend on your circumstances, but the general direction is universal. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference in passive income generating assets, maintain consistency over years and decades, let compound growth work its mathematical magic. The journey is long, but the destination is worthwhile, and perhaps more importantly, the journey itself, the discipline developed, the knowledge gained, the patience cultivated, transforms you in ways that complement the financial transformation. You become someone who can delay gratification, maintain long-term perspective, think systematically about wealth building, separate emotion from financial decisions. These qualities serve you far beyond passive income building, enriching every aspect of life. Rest now in the knowledge that passive income is achievable, that the path exists, that others have walked it successfully, and that you can too if you choose to begin and persist. The specific passive income strategies we've explored, dividends, real estate, intellectual property, digital products, are all available to you. The psychological challenges we've discussed are surmountable through awareness and practice. The practical steps are straightforward, even if the execution requires discipline. Everything you need to build passive income that makes money while you sleep exists. What remains is your decision to begin and your commitment to continue. Those are the only elements that cannot be provided by any guide or teacher. They must come from within you. From your own recognition that the life passive income enables is worth the patient effort required to build it. And so we've travelled together through the long history of passive income, from ancient landowners collecting grain to modern creators earning while they sleep. We've explored the mathematics of compound growth, the patience required for delayed gratification, the genuine work hidden behind the word passive. We've acknowledged the scams and false promises, the psychological challenges and practical obstacles. And we've discovered that passive income, while neither easy nor guaranteed, is real and achievable through patient-informed effort over years and decades. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, or if you drifted away and returned, or if you fell asleep somewhere in the middle, all of these are exactly right. There's nowhere else you need to be, nothing more you need to understand tonight. The knowledge is there when you want it. The possibilities remain whether you're awake or dreaming. You're part of a long human tradition of seeking freedom through ownership, through creation, through building systems that work while you rest. From those Mesopotamian landowners 5,000 years ago to you, lying here now, contemplating how money might flow while you sleep. The desire is ancient and universal. You're not chasing an illusion. You're pursuing something real that countless others have achieved through patience and persistence. Let your breathing slow now. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on a gentle stream. The passive income you might build tomorrow, next month, next year, it can wait. Everything can wait. For now, just rest. Let sleep come softly, naturally, like passive income itself. Not forced, not rushed, but arriving in its own time. Sleep well. Dream of money working while you rest. Good night.